from the Rome Masters. Details just before 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Friday, the 9th of May, 2025. It's just gone 7 minutes after 6. In fact, coming up to 8 minutes after 6. Live and direct from Auckland Park here in Johannesburg. We are SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Good morning to you. Wherever you're hearing us from this morning, in every town, city, kasi, village, and here a hamlet. From the hinterland to the heartland, this is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It is great to be in your company this morning. Among what we'll tell you this morning is this: Habemus Papam. That is the two-word Latin phrase meaning we have a pope. And it about sums up the mood at the Vatican and across the 1.4 billion strong global Catholic community. And that's because early yesterday evening, Cardinal Robert Prevost of the United States stepped onto the balcony at St. Peter's Basilica, overlooking St. Peter's Square, to greet the multitudes that had gathered there, greeting them for the first time as Pope Leo XIV. Prevost becomes the 267th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. And what do we know about him? And what glimpses does that give us into the kind of pontificate we can expect from him? My guest in the next few minutes will be Father Hugh O'Connor, who is the Secretary General of the Southern African Catholics Bishops Conference. So we'll have that conversation in our international feature, which is coming up in the next few minutes. At about 8:45, we'll be talking workplace bullying with the psychologist Mabore Sithole. And we're doing that because the country is currently reflecting on the 3rd anniversary of the adoption and coming into effect of the Code of Good Practice into the prevention and elimination of harassment in the workplace. There's a great deal of reflection on workplace bullying, of course, as we mark this 3rd anniversary. The code came into effect in March 2022. It was aimed really at plugging gaps in and complementing legislation, our progressive labor legislation such as the Labor Relations Act and the Employment Equity Act. But there were some gaps that include such practices as, workplace bullying, that can be outright vengefulness and bigotry, as well as more subtle practices such as assigning, particular employees menial tasks, moving them around and putting them in inferior workspaces, or even outright ostracizing them. That was not really covered quite clearly by our legislation. Covered to a certain extent, but really there were gaps. And so 3 years ago, this Code of Good Practice came into effect. We'll be reflecting on its effectiveness, but also how it all works outside of the legalities, right? How do you deal with workplace bullying? That conversation coming in at about 8:45. But I'd also love to hear from you, your experiences around workplace bullying and how you have dealt with it if you've encountered it in your own workspace. So you can give me a call as well as send me a WhatsApp voice note and share your experiences as far as that is concerned. And then lastly, let me flag this story. It's a massive sporting weekend this coming weekend. And massive is perhaps an understatement. It is huge. The excitement surrounding the 2025 Nedbank Cup final between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates. It's at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. But it's all been marred to a certain extent by the widespread ticketing fiasco, right? And it has left thousands of fans disgruntled and demanding answers. So there was that briefing yesterday by the PSL outlining what went wrong and what they've done to try and, fix it. But I mean, that situation where people found themselves 1 minute confirmed to have secured a ticket and only a few hours later to be told that, hang on, because the more tickets were sold than the venue can take, the Moses Mabhida Stadium can take. A lot of people are now needing to be given refunds instead of getting the tickets. And that has as you can imagine, outraged many fans. At about 7:20, I'll be talking to Nkululeko Nkeu, who is the co-founder of Idiski Media and also a football broadcaster. We'll be reflecting on that and just the state of readiness for the Nedbank Cup final. So it's all hands on deck once again this morning as far as the team is concerned. And Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne with your traffic, Zaikan at the sports desk, Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief coming up shortly. Dowling Lechela has your business and market updates, as well as Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at around 7 this morning. As far as contact details go, give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes if you send them to 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X. We are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, we are live on our YouTube channel. That is SAFM Radio. We've got quite a fair bit of ground to cover over the next 3 hours. So let's get this show on the road.
Dango, for the love of the game and Mzansi for sure.
Sekwenzenjani?
Soccer Zone has relocated to a new slot, 9 p.m. live every Monday on SABC 1. Mzansi Africa.
Fascinating goals.
The unbelievable saves.
From Africa Borwa to the entire African continent, to the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
High-level reviews of crucial match scenarios by the legendary Mr. F.
Top-class analysis, latest news about the beautiful game.
And Momish of the Week.
SABC Sport Football Weekend ends on Mondays at 9 p.m. on Soccer Zone.
Live on SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Weekend View on SAFM.
So, what are the odds of the college cardinals electing an African pope? That's our question that we are asking you this morning.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there's a lot of talk about geography. As we mentioned, Pope Francis coming from the Southern Hemisphere, coming from Argentina. Some saying that should continue. We should have a pope from outside of Europe, outside of Italy. Talk about whether there should be an Asian pope, whether there should be an African pope.
Is South Africa's freedom shaping a shared future for all its citizens?
As Nishan was saying, what was even started in the first 10 years of our democracy is being cannibalized. And you don't have to look any further than most of the surveys are saying public institutions are losing their legitimacy.
How is SADC viewing this one?
So you basically have almost a total absence of leadership on this continent.
The Weekend View, Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 7 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
At 15 minutes after 6, let's check in with Melissa Buta with the Morning Brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. We start with this story. 79 days, the journalism fraternity and others, loved ones of Sibusiso Aserindlovu and Zodwa Mdluli were hoping that they would be found alive, but it wasn't to be. Right, we'll come back to Melissa in a while. It does seem that there's a bit of a challenge as far as that line is concerned. So let's see if we can dial her back and see if we can get her back on a better line. All right, I believe we have Melissa now. Melissa, good morning to you. Let's start with an update on the 79-day search for the missing journalist Aserindlovu and his partner Zodwa Mdluli. It ended in tragedy yesterday with the update from the police.
Morning, Thulasizwe. So the police commissioner, Fani Masemula, has confirmed that human remains believed to be those of missing journalist Aserindlovu and his partner Zodwa Mdluli were discovered in Tshwane. The couple went missing in early February of this year. The remains were located after a suspect who was arrested for kidnapping and hijacking led the police to the area. DNA testing is pending to confirm their identities. Police are continuing to investigate the circumstances surrounding their disappearance, and this is a sad one indeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that really speak to the state of our country, isn't it? The state of crime in our country, and we'll focus on it towards the the top of this hour at about 10 to 7. We'll also have a few conversations about that. The city of Ekurhuleni, the mayor there, Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, has been talking a bit about these officers who face the possibility of disciplinary action.
So the latest in this story, Thulasizwe, is that the mayor is condemning the intimidation by some of the suspended EMPD officers amid disciplinary action following an illegal strike that took place on the 19th of March over pay and overtime cuts. He revealed that threats against colleagues who are still reporting for duty and alleged abuse of overtime, which cost the city nearly 200 million quarterly. The city is addressing these issues legally and engaging with unions to resolve the disputes, while 389 officers are said to be facing potential dismissal. And the Gauteng legislator has also warned that the suspensions of these officers could eventually lead to law enforcement capacity issues.
Lastly, in the Western Cape, the government there is concerned about the number of fatal crashes that have occurred on the roads.
So this is quite a concerning one. The Western Cape government has raised concerns after 16 fatal road crashes claimed 18 lives between the 29th of April and the 4th of May of this year, largely due to reckless driving, speeding and alcohol use. Provincial traffic services recorded that 267 speeding violations had occurred also during this time, with some drivers facing exceeding legal limits. Over 303, you know what? It's a Friday, Thulasizwe.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Over 36,000 vehicles were checked in, and 238 enforcement operations were launched during this time as well, resulting in 8,000 fines being issued and 128 arrests, including 86 for drunk driving. Motorists are urged by the officials to follow safety rules and view road safety rules along the road. This is quite a concerning one. Yeah. And they also have their whole campaign on, the no phones while driving. So they're taking road safety quite seriously in the Western Cape.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta there with your morning brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
As far as the weather goes, 3 impact-based warning coming through from the Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 4 warning. It says damaging winds leading to difficulty in navigation at sea and possible damage to informal settlements. Those conditions expected between Table Bay and Plettenberg Bay until Saturday. Then you have a yellow level 4 warning that says damaging waves leading to difficulty in navigation at sea for small vessels and personal watercraft, also expected between Table Bay and Plettenberg Bay on Saturday until Sunday. Then there's a yellow level 2 warning. It says damaging winds leading to localized problems for high-sided vehicles on prone routes. That is expected over Hantam and Karoo Hoogland municipalities of the Northern Cape and the Central and Little Karoo and the eastern parts of the Cape Winelands districts of the Western Cape. Those conditions expected from Saturday mid-morning until evening. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 24. Johannesburg fine 9 to 22. Mbombela fine 14 to 26. Polokwane will be fine 9 to 26. Mahikeng fine 8 to 25. Bloemfontein Bloemfontein will be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 24. Kimberley fine 8 to 25. Uppington fine and windy 12 to 28. Cape Town will have morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21. George will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy 10 to 20. Gqeberha will be cloudy with fog patches in places in the morning, otherwise fine 13 to 29. East London will be cloudy with fog patches in places in the morning, otherwise fine with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 29. Durban will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine 20 to 28. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine 19 to 28. And Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise it will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 28.
Amatax ladies and Tuhlitwatla ladies are meeting for a tense battle. They are both in search of 3 crucial points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the spectacular action of Mzansi Women's Football, University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Royal AM Ladies FC, the Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Catch SAFTA award-winning cooking reality show The Tastemaster SA from Tuesday the 13th of May at 7:30. Watch as 10 talented contestants take on delicious challenges to impress celebrity chef Zola Nene along with special guest judges. Don't miss the season premiere, a heartfelt tribute to the incredible moms who inspire us all. That's Tuesday the 13th at 7:30 p.m. The Tastemaster SA, only on SABC2.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Habemus Papam, the 2-word Latin phrase meaning we have a pope, about sums up the mood at the Vatican and across the 1.4 billion strong global Catholic community. And that's because early yesterday evening, Cardinal Robert Prevost from the United States stepped onto the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square to greet the multitudes gathered there for the first time as Pope Leo the 14th rather. Let's speak to Father Hugh O'Connor, the Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops Conference, who joins me now. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Who is Cardinal Robert Prevost of the United States, Pope Leo XIV? What do we know about him?
Well, firstly, we know that he was a tremendous surprise for us and for the world.
Yep.
What we seem to know is that he was born in Chicago, which is a very vibrant and very strong Catholic community. He joined a religious congregation called the Augustinians, and he went as a missionary priest to Peru.
Yeah.
So that indicates a desire to go out, a desire to meet, a desire to work in places that challenge that call for growth, a call for maturity. He then is appointed and recognized for his leadership skills, and is appointed as the head of the Augustinians, and so moved to Rome to lead that congregation for 12 years. And that would have exposed him to the international church, to the joys, the hopes, the struggles, the trials. It was also, and I think, a very important time of formation. Peru was important, but this opened him up to the Augustinians around the world and to really international diplomacy and international relations. Because working with communities across the world is no easy task. Different cultures, different languages. He then is appointed as the head of the dicastery for the appointment of bishops. Now that office looks after the appointment of bishops in the non-mission countries. Mm-hmm. So that's a rather critical role, because that also requires a certain amount of discernment. So in terms of his training, in terms of his formation, in terms of his experience, we're certainly getting somebody who has international experience, but who also has the local touch and the touch of the global South.
So when we look at the name, you and others that I've spoken to in the last few weeks have made the point that the name by which the Pope wants to be known is also a message that symbolizes, the kind of work and the person after whose footsteps they would want to follow. The name Pope Leo. Tell me a bit about that and why he chose that name, and also fuse into that what the electing cardinals were seeking to communicate by choosing him.
Firstly, the name that a pope chooses traditionally is rooted in someone who he admires, somebody who he wants to emulate. So, for instance, Pope Francis, he wanted to emulate the humility and the simplicity of St. Francis. Leo XIII is the last Leonine Pope, and who bore that name, and he is remembered for his encyclical Rerum Novarum. Leo XIII lived in a time when the working class was beginning to come under a great deal of pressure. Work was not seen as having a dignity. You had rising workers' movements, and Pope Leo XIII realized that the church had to speak into the issues of his time. So I think we're going to see Pope Leo XIV following in this tradition, a tradition of the social teachings of the church based on dignity of the human person, based on subsidiarity, that one listens, the decisions must be made at the right level, and also solidarity with those who are suffering. So I think we're in for, myself, I would say, in for an exciting time. He's not going to have the same style as Pope Francis, and he must be free to have that.
Absolutely.
Each person is an individual.
All
but
right.
I certainly think that we'll see interesting things.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and generosity really in sharing your experience and knowledge over the last few weeks. That's Father Hugh O'Connor. He's the Secretary General of the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning. The Soweto Derby build-up taking a spicy turn ahead of tomorrow's Nedbank Cup final at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Orlando Pirates assistant coach Mandla Ntsakazi says Kaizer Chiefs should be seen as favourites, citing their fresher legs and past cup pedigree. But the Chiefs assistant Cedric Hayes brought his own metaphor to the game, so there'll be fireworks, flair and a sold-out stadium despite ticketing chaos earlier this week. Let's hear first from Pirates Mandla Ntsakazi, followed by Chiefs Cedric Hayes.
It's the inception of this competition. We have won it 10 times, they've won 13 times. Currently, they've scored 14 goals. I think they are the top scorers, only conceded 2. So it's not going to be an easy match. But as usual, we will play this match to try and win. And give it our best shot and create history by being the first club in the PSL era to win it 3 times consecutively.
Privilege as well to play them 2 times in such a short period. But final is a final, and I am very happy that all the pressure from this final is on Orlando Pirates' shoulders.
And you can catch it live on SABC Sport. In the meantime, Tottenham will have the chance to end their 17-year trophy drought. They face Manchester United in the Europa League final after navigating a tricky trip to Bodo Glimt and securing a 5-1 aggregate victory with a 2-0 win in Norway. Man United beat Athletic Bilbao 4-1, and that's in the Europa League to complete an emphatic 7-1 aggregate semi-final victory. And cricket news, India's IPL match on Sunday between Mumbai and Punjab has been moved to Gujarat, and it was due to take place in Dharamsala, where the airport was closed in the wake of violence between India and neighbouring Pakistan, while the Indian Premier League match between the Punjab Kings and the Delhi Capitals in Dharamsala was abandoned because of a reported floodlight failure. The players walked off the field after 10.1 overs with the Kings on 122 for 1. 2 floodlit towers were inactive at the time the innings was postponed. We'll have more sport top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: police say DNA tests will be conducted to determine whether or not the human remains forensic teams have found belong to missing journalist Azari Ndlovu and his partner Zoto Mdluli. The police forensic teams from Gauteng and Mpumalanga discovered the remains. The funeral service of Police Constable Cebukulu Linda will take place this morning at the St. Rose Catholic Church in Bochabela, Bloemfontein. He was one of the 3 constables whose bodies were retrieved from the Hinops River in Centurion in Pretoria last week. And President Cyril Ramaphosa is among world leaders that have been sending their congratulations and well wishes to Pope Leo XIV. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM Music. Good times, good memories.
I'm just like somebody's wife.
Old school sounding so good. SAFM Music with you wherever you go. Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation. The Business Update on SAFM. Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's go to Sipho Mantula now. Sipho, good morning to you. Let's start with the commemorations of the thousands killed by French troops in 1945, involving Algeria and France. Tell me a bit more about that. All right, there's a bit of a challenge with that line, so we'll come back to Sipho Mantula with that Africa update, as well as give you other news and updates a bit later on. But for now, I want to take one or two of your voice notes that have come through at this point. All right, we'll come back to that as well, I am told. All right, that's all good. We will talk to Sipho a bit later on because part of what he's going to cover is the commemorations of the thousands killed by French troops in 1945 massacres. And I believe I have Sipho on the line. Sipho, let's start there with this commemoration. Tell me a bit more about it. Sipho, do I have you? No, there's a bit of a challenge on that line. So that's one of the stories that Sipho was going to cover. We'll see if we can come back to Sipho once we get him on a better line.
Dango, for the love of the game and Mzansi for sure.
Sekwenzenjani?
Soccer Zone has relocated to a new slot, 9 p.m. live every Monday on SABC 1. Mzansi Africa.
Fascinating goals.
The unbelievable saves.
From Africa Borwa to the entire African continent, to the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
High-level reviews of crucial match scenarios by the legendary Mr. Rev.
Top-class analysis, latest news about the beautiful game.
And Momish of the Week.
SABC Sport Football Weekend ends on Mondays at 9 p.m. on Soccer Zone.
Live on SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It takes a while before these arch rivals meet in the final. But when they do, everything stops. Nabi is confident to delight the Amakosi fans.
If the fans love Kaiser Chiefs, automatically is love Nabi.
While the back-to-back victor, Rivero, chases the third consecutive title.
Whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent.
This is the Nedbank Cup final. Witness the Soweto Derby. Gold and Black battles it out with Black and White on Saturday, 10 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC 1. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's hope it's third time lucky with Sipho Mantula. Sipho, good morning. Let's start with this commemoration of these massacres in 1945 by French troops. They coincide with a day when Europe marks Victory in Europe Day, but in Algeria they take on a darker note.
Refreshing morning, Thulas, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, what yesterday happened in Algiers, 1945, the 8th of May. It is a very important day in the commemorative history with the crisis that they had where more than 100 Algerians were killed by the French, the violent anti-French riots. You will recall in 2022, Thulas, President Bon and the President of France, wanted to have a truth commission style, what they call dossier de memoire, to look at the committee of historians and lawyers to look at what really happened during that time. Now, they are still asking for formal apology from France to us, because this is what is important. Whenever you have massacres, it is important when you talk of Truth and Reconciliation Commission or transitional justice. The question of apology goes along also with reparations.
Then let's turn to the DRC, the return of its former president, Joseph Kabila. The party, there was a ban that was imposed, I believe, a few weeks ago, but you're saying that the party is saying that they're going to defy that ban.
They will defy that ban. If you recall that the government had freezed some of the activities of the People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy. This is the party led by Joseph Kabila. It has not been lifted, and they are saying that when they look at the court order, it automatically suspends it after 15 days. But they are saying they will resume as a party to their activities, despite that we know that they are still accusing former President Kabila for still being pro-M23 in the North and the South Kivu provinces. Now, this gives an indication that you are still having the Doha and the Washington process. At the same time, you have a crisis in the Eastern DRC to us of M23, the former president also trying to mediate, and at the same time banning the free political activism in the DRC.
And in Mali, tell me about what Colonel Assimi Goita has been saying about whether or not he will vacate power and actually hold elections.
So there's also a problem in the Sahel that we don't understand the current situation, how Colonel Assimi Goita, how will he deal with this? Because this week he suspended political parties until further notice, and others are saying for reasons of public order, there was a mass protest that has been planned today in Bamako. And others are saying the civil spaces is shrinking now with this issue of the delayed elections in Mali. Remember, he took power in 2020 to us. He promised to have elections, but pulling out of ECOWAS, forming the Sahel Alliance, maybe might have pushed him to go for an early elections. But it appears that there's protest and political instability in Bamako.
Yeah. And then back home here in South Africa, tell me about Minister Ronald Lamola and the address to the Solidarity Conference on Women, Peace and Security.
So that this is an annual event that they are doing at Foreign Affairs. We're looking at to recall UN Resolution 1325 when it look at the role of women in mediation, peace building, as well as conflict resolution. It comes under the auspices of Gertrude Shope. Now today, Minister Lamola will be engaging with other speakers coming from Palestine, Ukraine, DRC, Ethiopia, Mozambique, South Sudan and Sudan, just to look at the role of women, to look at the voices of women in this escalating global conflict, whether it's trade wars, whether it's Sudan, is the DRC, is the Sahel, you still need that voice of women. As I say, the extension of recalling that UN Resolution 1325 on the role of women.
Yeah, and in your historical archive, you're taking us back to the 9th of May 2004. That's the day when one of our country's most powerful voices fell silent. That's quite true, Thulas. According to our cultural ambassador, we are talking about Nokuzola Brenda Fassie. It was 21 years ago, Thulas, on this day, 2004, after spending 2 weeks in a coma. We will recall Brenda's career. People like Silo Chico Twala have been there. People like Koloi Lebona, who had Brenda Fassie when he was still young, Thulas. We'll never forget when you talk of the derby, Brenda Fassie with the big Jews will be there performing with your Lucky Dubes. And the album that yesterday talked about Operation Vulindlela. Remember the song Operation Vulindlela was used by President Mbeki for the campaign. President Ramaphosa is still using Vulindlela or Asali Thulas, is it Valindlela or Vulindlela? But finally, last year Thulas, there was a scholar from Vets who wrote a master's a paper that he says she's not a bad girl. Brenda Fassie, past and present and future, a canon for the construction of a post-colonial feminist consciousness. Might be a long title to that, but it's your master's in a university level by a student called Kwaisha in Vets. He wrote about, she's not a bad girl, Nokuzola Brenda Fassie. We remember her to as black president,
Memeza. Those are the songs that we'll never forget. This son of Langa in Cape Town, who was born 1964, passed away on this day, 9 May 2004. Asante sana Tula Sources in the conversation, SAFM observing the Africa Month.
Sipo, thank you for that. That's Sipo Mantula there with your Africa update.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
So let me start by giving credit to the initial reporting of News 24 on this next story. At a recently held webinar organized by the civil society formation Defend Our Democracy, a spirited debate ensued about the country's land reform program. It was held under the theme, quote, "Expropriation, the answer to South Africa's land reform problems," end quote. The debate featured three leading thinkers on the issue of land reform, one of whom is my next guest, Emeritus Professor Fred Hendricks of Rhodes University. Among his many contributions was his stark warning that if the country does not confront the statistic that 40,000 white farmers own half of the country's land mass, democracy itself is at stake. So he joins me now to take that conversation forward. Prof. Hendricks, good morning. Thank you for your time. So let me just quote you a little bit more. You said, and I quote here, "It's not a question of a lonely individual white farmer whose land is going to be expropriated without compensation. It is a statistic that is against the fiber of a democratic especially of a democracy, especially because it is racialized inequality," end quote. Clearly, this statistic troubles you. Expand a bit more on why this is the case.
Well, thank you very much, firstly, and good morning to all your listeners. I'm an avid listener to your
Thank
show. The problem is that we have an unfinished process of decolonization. South Africa experienced a level of land dispossession that was unrivaled across the African continent. We can go into the history, but as was mentioned in the webinar, if you just compare two countries, Tanzania and South Africa, Tanzania experienced only 1% of land dispossession. Only 1% of Tanzania's land mass was actively occupied by white settlers. In South Africa, with the 1913 Land Act, more than 90% of that land was actively dispossessed, and it constrained the possibilities for independent production, independent agriculture, independent farming, independent ways of making a living by the indigenous population, forcing them into eventually only 13% of the land of the 1936 Land Act. And what we've done since 1994, given the severity of that dispossession, is not to challenge that level of dispossession in any fundamental way. The programs of land reform have not met the challenge that we face in respect of coming close towards a more equitable distribution of land in the country. The problem is that if you have identities of dispossession amongst blacks and identities of being propertied amongst whites, it becomes extraordinarily difficult to develop an imagination of the nation which is unitary, which transcends those racial divides.
Yeah.
So the material inequalities premised on race make it very difficult for us to conceive of a unitary nation.
So against that historical backdrop and the statistic that you share, you would think that, there would be a sense of purpose and a sense of, staying the cause in terms of the land reform programs that have been unfolding over the last 3 decades or so. But yet you give a stinging indictment of the country's land restitution and redistribution programs. In fact, you describe them as a monumental failure. Why do you say that?
Well, because so little has changed. And even when things have changed, they've changed for the worse, unfortunately. If you take the 3 main components of land reform, tenure reform, restitution and redistribution, the only area where there's been some measure of success is with restitution. But even there are deep problems. So restitution was meant to restore people's land when they had lost it as a result of the application of apartheid laws. The cut-off date was 1913, and that itself was deeply problematic because the overwhelming bulk of indigenous people had already lost their land by then. But let's take that as it is. So you have huge swathes of commercial agricultural land in South Africa, which constitutes a huge part of this country. And according to our president, 25% of that land is now in black hands. 25% has been transferred. If you start from a base of 1994, where 100% of that land was owned by whites, now 25% is owned by blacks. But you're still left with 75% of that land surface. And 75% of that land surface constitutes half of this country's land surface. And there are only 40,000 white farmers who own half of the country. It is a staggering statistic. It's something that has to be confronted head on. There has to be a much greater sense of urgency in dealing with it. And we're not seeing that urgency. What we do see is a level of incompetence, I'm afraid to say, because people have been deployed to positions for which they're not qualified. We've seen a lack of integrity because of the levels of corruption that exist. And we've seen a lack of political will to deal with it. And the lack of political will also stems from the fact that so very many officials are hell-bent on making money, on stealing money. Our own Minister of Land Affairs at a recent parliamentary subcommittee mentioned that one of the reasons that people are opting for cash instead of land with restitution, opting for a monetary restitution rather than actual land, is because the officials have been compelling people to take cash because that opens up possibilities for corruption. So it's a huge problem. It stems from, there are deep problems theoretically or conceptually with the notion of land reform that is supposed to be undertaken by the market. That in itself is problematic. But having adopted that policy, within the constraints of that policy, there are still huge problems of so many examples, such a lot of evidence about administrative bungling and corruption and inefficiencies and incompetence.
Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Professor Emeritus Professor Fred Hendricks from Rhodes University.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric, mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
VIP protection officers, they face legal charges including pointing a firearm, reckless and negligent driving, malicious damage to property, assault with the intent to cause grievous bodily harm, obstruction of justice, and assault by way of threat. There was so much that they faced, right? The story is now that they've been cleared of these charges by the South African Police Service. So I understand you're going to write to the Police Minister for clarity. That could well be an understatement. It sounds like you're not very happy.
It really is a very shameful moment for the South African Police Service. It's an indictment on, and I think it sends a very, very dangerous message to the public that South African Police Service members, especially those attached to elite units like Presidential Protection Services, could act with impunity and that they're above the law. So shameful to say the least, and it's critical for us to understand how on earth they could have been acquitted of the disciplinary charges against them.
Ian Cameron, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee.
This is the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, from the run through Midrand. Noticeably a lighter volume this Friday morning. Traffic a bit slowed down towards a new road, but it is a little bit easier. There's some queues though at Pretoria, the N1 South, clogged up through Gaasfontein, down towards Rigel Avenue in the R21. Also a crash coming in from Protea Glen along the N12, just approaching the Klipsrand Valley Road exit. So Protea Glen passing Lenasia on your way to Joburg is again slow. Pinetown, just outside Cape Town, the M7 run this week has been really heavy. Give you an idea, it is already at this early hour queuing from Hunstedman Highway all the way up over St John's Avenue Bridge down towards Josiah Gormedi. Very heavy backlogs again in that central Pinetown area. N3 just starting to queue up over those rumble strips on your way through Pavilion towards Spaghetti Junction. That'll just get busier as we get through the day. And Cape Town, pretty misty conditions this morning. The N1 inbound held up from Plattekloof Hill down to Kuberg interchange. The N2 pretty heavy between the airport and Hospital Bend area. M7 queuing out of Mitchell's Plain up towards Samora Michelle. That's looking pretty heavy for a Friday. And the big crash between Toes Rafia and Mikey's Fontaine appears to be clear. The big backlog has moved through. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
To this tragic story now. The 79-day search for radio journalists Busiso Aseri-Ndlovu and his partner Zodwa Precious Mdluli has ended in a typically South African tragedy. The National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola confirming yesterday that police have found human remains in an area pointed out by the suspects held in connection with the couple's disappearance. While police will undertake the formality of DNA testing to confirm that the remains belong to the couple, news of their killing has gutted the journalism fraternity and serves as a chilling reminder that ours is an abnormal crime situation. Let's welcome Brigadier Athlenda Mate, who speaks on behalf of the SAPS at a national level. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. What picture is emerging from your investigations about the circumstances, firstly, of their disappearance and secondly, of their brutal killing?
Okay. A very good morning and thank you for the opportunity. Our teams have been on the ground working on this case since February. Initially, what was thought to be the motive, that the journalist was possibly kidnapped as a result of his work and the investigations that he was doing on extortionists. It does not seem as though that was the motive. Further investigations reveal that it could be that it was robbery that was the main motive. And so on. So we are still investigating. However, yesterday, as you've indicated, we have found human remains. And this particular spot was pointed out by the suspects that we have arrested. We've got 5 in custody that we arrested on Sunday. And they are due to appear before the KwaMhlanga Magistrate Court. They're back in court today to face a number of charges. So it would be interesting to really see if the magistrate will allow us to add additional charges of murder, or he will await the DNA process to be undertaken and finalized.
Yeah, because at the moment you still didn't have those charges on because it was based on what you found in their possession when you arrested them.
Yes, absolutely. You'll recall that the first suspect is a person who was very close to the couple. He was actually working as an e-hailing service driver for the couple. And number 2, 3, and 4 suspects were found to be in possession of suspected stolen vehicle parts belonging to the missing couple. And so on. They were also found in possession of your stolen property, like your home appliances that were taken from the couple's home. We are still looking for stock, such as, sheep, goats that were allegedly also stolen from the couple. So those are some of the things, the leads that we are following.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Brigadier Athlenda Mate, the SAPS national spokesperson. And listening to that, I mean, it's difficult listening, is Antoinette Slabert, who is acting chairperson of the National Press Club. Good morning to you. In my introduction, I describe it as the journalism fraternity is gutted, but this is a loss that goes beyond just the journalism fraternity, given the role that Aserin Ndlovu played in journalism, but also just the families of the two families, Zodwa Mdluli herself being someone that is valued and treasured by those who loved her. Right, there's a bit of a difficulty with that line to Antoinette Slabert. Let's see if we can get her back on. I believe we do have her on the line. Antoinette, good morning. Just your reflections. I mean, it was 79 days of a search for Aserin Mdluli and Aserin Ndlovu and Zodwa Mdluli, during which there was hope that they would be found alive, but it didn't turn out to be.
That is right, Thulasizwe. We are gutted. We are really so sad. You know, Asiri was such a happy fellow. He was treasured in the National Press Club, not only as an executive member, committee member, but also because we really treasure our community media. You know, he founded a Capital Live FM in Mamelodi, and these community media are so close to the residents of an area, and that is what we found in Mamelodi. But as you say, it's not only the colleagues and the friends who are gutted, the family. You can imagine having waited for 79 days, not knowing where they are. Zodwa, for example, has two sons. The one is a young man, the other is at high school. The high school boy had to write exams during this period. It was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And Asiri, as an elderly mother, Zodwa's sister, was also quite involved in our dealings with the family. Yes, we are really, as I say, devastated, but we are also, on the other hand, grateful for the media who kept this matter alive, and for the police who went out of their way. Various disciplines were involved, and that at least we can bring closure. And now we are focused on the legal process. Today we will bring together with the African Media and Communicators Forum a court application so that we can broadcast the proceedings, and we hope that will find a favour with the magistrate, because we really want to see justice being done in this matter.
What's your thinking about what this killing symbolizes in terms of our crime situation? Because I keep saying, and I can't find stronger words, I wish I could, that I keep saying that this underscores just how abnormal our crime situation is. But I think more can be said about it, that there must be a turning point at some point. Someone has to take the situation seriously at some point.
You are so right, Thulasizwe, but what hurts me most is that we as journalists have access to platforms. We have access to high-level people, and we were able to elevate this matter of our brother and our friend and our colleague and his partner. But how many other people just vanish every day, and there's no resolution? Their loved ones don't have the access that we have, and you know, there's just no resolution. The crime is out of control in our country. This is only one example of that, and it hurts us. As a people, we are, you know, we cannot deal with all of this every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Antoinette. And in fact, as Antoinette mentions, just after reading some of the messages on the WhatsApp group of journalists, the African Media and Communicators Forum, I did see that someone shared another story that had to do with another killing in South Africa. And that's just run-of-the-mill, everyday situation that you deal with, that such stories are circulated. So it just tells you just how abnormal the situation is. Who will take this seriously and take decisive action? Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, DNA results to confirm if bodies found remains of missing journalist and partner, and ANC concerned about losing 3 wards to the Thulasizwe party. Good morning. Police say DNA tests will be conducted to determine whether the human remains their forensic teams found belong to missing journalist Sibusiso Azari Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mdluli. The police forensic teams from Gauteng and Mpumalanga discovered the remains at Rustewinter in Gauteng. The couple was last seen on the 18th of February in Pretoria. 5 people have been arrested in connection with the couple's disappearance. Mpumalanga Acting Police Commissioner Dr. Zefum Kwanazi.
Of course, still a lot of work to be done to make sure that we have surety that really these are the people that we are actually looking for. But definitely bringing all of us together, working together and with different skills. And believe me, if we can mention, it's a lot of different people who came here to find that at the end of the day, we have these bodies, we pick it up at this moment, no matter how the situation is, but at least we have got somewhere at this stage.
The funeral service of Police Constable Qebekulu Linda will take place this morning at the St. Rose Catholic Church in Bochabela, Bloemfontein. He was one of the 3 constables whose bodies were retrieved from the Henops Raven Centurion in Pretoria last week. The trio had gone missing on the 23rd of last month. Constables Linda Kiamugetswe Base and Boipelo Senoge were travelling from Bloemfontein to Limpopo on deployment. Senoge was buried yesterday. Kamohelo Tsotetsi reports.
Linda went missing only a day after celebrating his 24th birthday on the 22nd of April. He was lauded as an intelligent police officer who demonstrated potential in the service. With less than 2 years in the SAPS, Linda was already drafted in the Crime Intelligence Directorate. The search for the 3 constables reached a tragic end last week when their bodies were retrieved from the Henops River.
The ANC has conceded that it's concerned about losing 3 wards to the Thulasizwe party in recent by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal. Under its newly appointed provincial task team, the ANC has lost 2 wards in Richmond, 28 in Kwadukuza and Ward 18 in Mandeni. The ANC national leadership and the provincial task team met yesterday to evaluate progress made in the ongoing organizational renewal efforts in the province. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula addressed the media in Durban after the meeting.
We have lost, and we did not camouflage that loss in KwaZulu-Natal. We are a 17% party, and we need to get out of that. We have been working on a program of renewal and a comeback in KZN. Is it working up to this far? It is. There are sparkles of good work that has been done, and I'm not over defensive and saying that no, everything is hunky-dory, we are winning, we are not concerned. We have lost important wards of the ANC from members of the ANC who left the ANC and crossed over to the opposition.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is among the world leaders that have been sending their congratulations and well wishes to Pope Leo XIV. Ramaphosa has described the election of the Pope as a profound moment for the Catholic Church and the global community. US President Donald Trump says the election of the first American Pope is a great honor for his country. The president of Pope Leo's adopted homeland Peru, Dina Boluarte, says he has brought hope to those who are most in need. Residents of Chicago, where Pope Leo was born, have reacted to his election.
I didn't think an American Pope would actually ever be elected in my lifetime, even though he probably was the best American Pope as a candidate.
I'm not going to say I'm very Catholic, but I feel like it's cool to know that, you know, somebody like a Pope lived in front of us. I feel like it's a small world, you know.
No, that's really exciting because that's not happening every day, you know.
This morning, the Pope will celebrate Mass in the Sistine Chapel. On Monday, he's scheduled to meet members of the media. Pope Francis biographer Austin Ivory says that will be a crucial test for the new pontiff.
It's a moment, of course, for the Pope to thank the world's media. We've had 4,000, I believe, journalists accredited. Normally there are 500 here in the Vatican. It's a moment to tell those who are still in Rome at that time to thank them for their work. Also, just a moment we, the media, have a chance to sort of look at him and see him, as it were, up close. It'll be important for, again, the messages that he wants to give us.
Recapping the top story, police say DNA tests will be conducted to determine whether the human remains the forensic teams found belong to missing journalist Sibusiso Azari Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mdluli. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
With all the recent headlines, it's time for some good news. A 25-year-old man, Tyler, is smiling all the way to the bank. He switched to Outsurance and now saves a whopping 718 Rand a month on the insurance for his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Outsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. Make today the day you switch and save with Outsurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Vaal area coming from Meyerton, coming from Vereeniging actually up towards Meyerton, leaving the Vaal. There's a tanker on fire between the two towns, between Vereeniging and Meyerton. The R59 is heavy. It may well be closed, so just factor in some delays and possible diversions on your way through to Joburg using the 59 route this morning. Mike 1 from Boyson through to Parktown, already quite busy. A lot of pressure on Malabongwe Drive coming from North Riding through the highway in towards Stratham Park. Traffic lights are still out, William Mandela and Leslie, so delays coming out of the Four Ways area as well. Crash on the Summit Road, the 562 Summit Road, just on the western side of the Blue Hills crossing, so between Deepslit and Blue Hills, but closer to Blue Hills, that's where the crash is. Big traffic on the M1 South from Garsfontein, moving through towards the R21 exit. Durban's M7, very heavy again this morning, already queuing up from Hunstedman Highway across St John's Avenue Bridge and into that central Pinetown area. Cape Town pretty misty and everything on a go slow for Friday morning. N1 back from Bladderkloof, the N2 from Robert Sobukwe. There's a lot of pressure already on the N7 north through Goodwood up to Bosmansdam Road as well. Just give yourself time to get through. Conditions not great in terms of visibility and motorists going slow as a result of that. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It's soccer with tomorrow's Nedbank Cup final nearing. The Mind Games have officially kicked off. And in rugby, Springbok Mani Libok could be the starting fly half for the Stormers tomorrow if Director of Rugby John Dobson follows his policy of introducing injured players back into the fray. Details just before 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7 on this Friday. It's great to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. We are leading the conversations that move us. Sadly, one of those conversations has us resuming this hour where we left off the last hour, simply because this is our reality, right? This is part of who we are as a country, with the kinds of crime situation, the kind of crime situation that we face. So in the next few minutes, I'll be telling you about pupils from Soweto, some schools in Soweto, taking to the streets in protest. This has to do with an incident that happened on Tuesday involving some University of Johannesburg students who live at a particular residence that's off campus, who had a scuffle with some pupils from a school called Musi High School. And in that scuffle, it resulted in the killing of a pupil there, a brutal killing for that matter. So in the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with Stebiso Masondo, who is the Power Park Ward Committee member, to just let us in on what exactly transpired here, because it is a disturbing incident. And then after that, I'll be in conversation with Nkululeko Nkewu, who is the co-founder of Idiski Media, as well as a football broadcaster. We'll be reflecting on the chaos that was the sales for the football match, the Nedbank Cup final that will be played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium this weekend, with the sale of tickets. But also we'll then touch on, what can be expected on the field of play, because after all, the game must go ahead despite all of the chaos that we have focused on. And then a bit later on in the hour, at about 10 to the hour, we'll reflect on the resistance that is mounting to Cape Town's proposed tariff structure, which will introduce some hikes. There's a view that says not only should this resistance be happening in Cape Town, but actually should form the springboard for community mobilization and civic movement, a reactivation in a way of the civic movement across the country. I'll be in conversation with Rob Hutchinson, who is the founder of Dear South Africa, in that conversation coming up at about 10 to 8 in this hour. Through it all, please weigh in on any of these conversations and any others that you may want to raise with me. I'll entertain those. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best in morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
So let's bring you that story now. Hundreds of pupils from Soweto took to the streets in protest on Wednesday, gathering outside the University of Johannesburg's Power Park off-campus residents to demand justice for a grade 10 Musi High School learner who was brutally murdered. The tragic incident involving 5 UJ students has ignited widespread outrage and has prompted calls for accountability from both the university as well as law enforcement. Let's speak to Stebiso Masondo, who is the Power Park Ward Committee member. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. I tried to summarize the incident that led to this murder taking place on Tuesday. But from your understanding in the community, what happened here?
Good morning, everyone and listeners. My name is Thulasizwe Simelane. I'm the secretary of the ANC Youth League in Ward 24. I'm also the Ward Committee member in the office of the councillor responsible for community development. It is indeed what has happened on Tuesday around 2:30 to 3. So what's happening is that there was a bus that was coming from Musi High School in the 3 schools that are nearby, which is Musi High School, Tabajabula and Mshugantam, and was carrying learners going to Freedom Park, Power Park, and Mutuality. So when it reaches Power Park, there is a student accommodation that is of University of Johannesburg, that is off campus, that is in Power Park. So there was a group of 5 Soweto campus UJ students that were sitting under the tree near the bus stop outside campus that were drinking alcohol. So when they saw the bus approaching and it was offloading the kids of Power Park, then they forcefully entered the bus, demanding the driver to accompany them to the nearest tavern so they get alcohol because they were drinking. According to the rest management, they were locked out because of alcohol is prohibited in the residential area. So that's why they were chilling outside there. So when they were forcefully getting into the bus, they requested the driver to say, "Can you accompany us to the nearest tavern where we can get alcohol?" So the driver refused, and that's where the commotion started. But no, I'm taking kids, I cannot take you. And then the commotion happened as well between the learners that were inside the bus. So no, we cannot be having you inside the bus because we also need to go home and all of that. So that's where also the commotion started, and then they took their heads of these kids.
Yeah,
and then
sorry, Stebi, so just that detail that you're mentioning now, these UJ students allegedly taking the hats, the beanies that these pupils who were in the bus were wearing. I mean, it sounds like, one of those typical school ground bullying incidents, that it would escalate to the point where this murder then occurs. Tell me about what then happened when these young people, these pupils, later on returned to confront these 5 students who were sitting under a tree and drinking alcohol.
Yeah, so these learners, when they were coming back, so they recruited other students in mutuality because they said, no, that these guys that took our beanies and then we need to go and call and take them back. So they went back in a smaller crowd to go and demand their beanies and all of that. So that's where obviously the commotion started because they went to those students and then they fought. And then the students as well called for the backup.
Sure.
So that's where now it was a big fight that led to this boy, Tebo Biela, lose his life. Actually, the life taken by the student that was supposed to protect these learners. That is really sad news.
Yeah. What does this incident reveal? Because part of what we've been talking about is the consumption of alcohol, and it seems to me a culture that's just unruly, just being unruly, demanding that the school bus driver takes them to a nearby tavern. At least that's the allegation as it stands now. What does it reveal about some of the social ills that we are dealing with? The fact that we could end up with such a brutal killing that involves the use of a baseball bat as well as stabbing with a bottle and the likes. What does it reveal about the social ills in the community?
Yeah, it's really disturbing because even the parents of these students, they took these people to have education at the university. Not what they did actually, because remember that residential accommodation, it's outside campus. So they belong to the community now because they are not in campus. So they form part of the houses that are in the ward. So it's our responsibility as well to make sure that their lives and their livelihood, it's very, very safe. So we also expecting them to behave and be managed by the residential facility management in a manner that they concentrate in what they came to the rest for, going to school and coming to school and focus in the education. So, but we also applaud the rest management for blocking the entry of them, because if they were allowed inside the residential accommodation, which means this commotion was gonna happen inside the rest, and students that are living in that rest were in danger for in that day, because it shows that these guys, when they were drunk, they were unruly, and they were prepared to do anything for what maybe they will be happy.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for sharing the details with us. That's Cebiso Masondo, who is a Power Park Ward Committee member, but also an ANC Youth League leader in that area. Just by way of completion, as of the last update, 2 UJ students had been arrested in connection with this incident. The university itself issuing a statement condemning the violence and offering condolences to the victim's family and promising firm disciplinary action pending the outcome of the police investigation.
It takes a while before these arch rivals meet in the final, but when they do, everything stops. Nabi is confident to delight the Amakosi fans.
If the fans love Kaiser Chiefs, automatically is love Nabi.
While the back-to-back victor, Rivero, chases the third consecutive title.
Whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent.
This is the Nedbank Cup final. Witness the Soweto Derby. Gold and Black battles it out with Black and White on Saturday, 10 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
He's short, loud, and definitely not a licensed therapist, but he's asking the hard questions. It's Heart to Heart with Kevin, the only talk show where the guests spill the tea and Kevin spills the jokes. Real talk, real laughs, and real short host. Heart to Heart with Kevin, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on S3.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
23 minutes after 7. The excitement surrounding the 2025 Nedbank Cup final between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates has been marred somewhat by a widespread ticketing fiasco that has left thousands of fans disgruntled and demanding answers. A system failure resulted in oversold tickets, unconfirmed purchases, and growing calls for accountability just days before the high-stakes match at FNB Stadium. In fact, just a day ahead. So let's speak to Nkululeko Nkewu, who is co-founder of Idiski Media, a football broadcaster. Good morning to you, Nkululeko, and thank you for your time. What happened here? Before we get into the field of play, the tactics and whether history counts for anything when you have a derby such as this one, do we have any understanding of how we got to a situation where more tickets were sold than the venue can take?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Good morning to your listeners as well. Well, they explained themselves. Open tickets, the Premier Soccer League and the SAPS as well, on a press conference, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday this week, they explained themselves. In short, they say Open Tickets, I think, is a relatively new company. Maybe their inexperience is partially to blame with this. They say that there were more than what they anticipated in terms of number of people who visited the website to buy tickets. In short, the system crashed, and then more people were sold the available tickets. They say that over 10,000 people were charged for tickets even after they were sold out. And then they said 80% of those people got their monies back. And yeah, the Soweto Derby is sold out effectively. So the system crashed. A lot of people were asking questions about why would such a young company as Open Tickets, different ticketing companies that have worked with the Premier Soccer League, why did they decide to go with this company? That wasn't necessarily answered. But yeah, the Premier Soccer League had to ask stadium management, Becky Grobler, to audit what exactly happened. And as he explained it, it was a system crash, which meant that over 10,000 people, more than the capacity, were charged. And they say that they were then returned their money, 80% at the time of the press conference.
Yeah.
Maybe more people have been, or maybe all of them now, have been given back their money.
And it's a confluence of factors, isn't it? Because not only did we have this experimenting with a relatively new company and the system then crashing, but also it so happens that this is a cup final derby, and thirdly, it's being played at a venue other than the venue that we are used to for such a massive game.
Fabulous way of putting it, Thulasizwe, because The Soweto Derby, since we had the Ellis Park disaster in 2001, the 11th of April, where over 40 people died. I think there was a commission that followed, and there was a recommendation there that the Soweto Derby, which is a fixture between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, the biggest fixture of this country, is recommended to be played during the day, 3 p.m. Saturday, and preferably at the biggest stadium in the country, which is the FNB Stadium. FNB Stadium, Nedbank Cup, you can see there's a clash there. Normally, if it's a league game, which is a betting premiership, those matches go to the FNB Stadium without any arguments. However, these tournaments, the Nedbank Cup, hasn't featured in a final at the FNB Stadium. Maybe it's a clash there with those two brands. But yeah, for the safety of the people, that particular fixture is supposed to be played at a stadium that has the biggest capacity, and that's the FNB Stadium, because I think the Moses Mabhida Stadium carries a capacity that says maybe 40,000 less in terms of the allowable number of people there, maybe 45 up to 50,000 in those ranges. The FNB Stadium can carry up to 90,000 in terms of the capacity as well. So that's a concern, but I don't think it would be the first time that the Soweto Derby since 2001 would have been played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. What makes this worse is the fact that we don't know if those people who purchased tickets and got their rewards will still feel like, I got my ticket, I bought it, even though I don't have it, but I'll still go to the stadium. And that's more than 10,000 people. So that adds to the possibility of a disaster. But the SAPS Deputy Commissioner provincially said that there will be a lot of police to manage the potential disasters, because they realize that more people will feel like, I bought a ticket even though I don't have it in my hands, therefore I can go to the stadium even though I was given back a refund. Now that could be 20,000 people, that could be 30,000 people who feel emboldened enough to go there. So if they can hopefully police the perimeter within the stadium, that you don't get anywhere near a kilometer to the stadium if you don't produce a ticket, that could at least avert any potential disaster.
All right, Nkululeko, I'm out of time, so let me just move on, and Zai will pick up on the field tactics in a moment. That's Nkululeko Nkewu, the co-founder of Idiski Media. He's also a football broadcaster.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. The Nedbank Cup final getting nearer and nearer, and the mind games have kicked off as well. Orlando Pirates assistant coach Mandla Nsikazi has boldly dubbed Kaizer Chiefs the favourites, but Chiefs Cedric Case not rattled, saying there's unity in the camp and it's stronger than ever. With Moses Mabhida sold out, tickets snapped up in minutes. This Soweto derby is more than just a match. Let's hear from Mandla Nsikazi, followed by Chiefs assistant Cedric Case.
It's the inception of this competition. We have won it 10 times, they've won 13 times. Currently, they've scored 14 goals. I think they are the top scorers, only conceded 2. So it's not going to be an easy match. But as usual, we will play this match to try and win and give it our best shot and create history by being the first club in the PSL era to win it 3 times consecutively.
Privilege as well to play them 2 times in such a short period. But final is a final, and I am very happy that all the pressure from this final is on Orlando Pirates' shoulders.
You can catch the action live on SABC Sport. Now, more soccer. Tottenham will have the chance to end their 17-year trophy drought when they face Man United in the Europa League final. They had a 5-1 aggregate victory, and that was a 2-0 win in Norway to Bodo Glimt. The other match saw Man United beating Athletic Bilbao 4-1 in the Europa League to complete a 7-1 aggregate semi-final victory. Here's Man United manager Ruben Amorim looking ahead to the Tottenham clash.
The position of the coach is quite similar. I know that Ange has one more year. It is different, the context, but we are struggling, both of us. So I don't know what is going to happen. That is a good thing and the bad thing with this team. I never know. So I will try to prepare the game. But I think we are improving.
Let's go to rugby. The Stormers are set to clash and welcome back the Springbok fly half Mali Libbok, and that's for tomorrow's URC clash against the Dragons at Cape Town Stadium. Libbok returns from a knee injury and coach John Dobson is expected to start him, staying true to his policy of easing players back into form with maximum minutes and full bench cover. It's a crucial outing to regain rhythm ahead of the playoffs. Kickoff is at 6:15 in the evening. That's a wrap of the Morning Brief Sport. There'll be more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: 5 people arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Sibusiso Aseri-Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mdluli will be back in the Kwamhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will resume today with the cross-examination of Judge's Secretary Ntombokolo Jobela. And the ANC has conceded that it's concerned about losing 3 wards to the Umkhonto weSizwe party in recent by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a fairly heavy backlogging both sides of Joburg this morning. First up, coming in from the Vaal, a tanker on fire between Vereeniging and Meyerton. You'll find yourself being delayed. You may well find that road being closed with a diversion off the 59 onto a local alternative route. The other side of the province, coming to Joburg on the N1 through Pretoria, major backlogs there. A crash between Rigel Avenue and the R21. Traffic all the way back through towards the N4. Emma-Leflani Highway split. N14, the Krugersdorp Highway in the Brockfontein interchange towards Pretoria. That's quite heavy. And there's been a collision on the Summit Road. That's just on the western side of Blue Hill. So between Diepsloot and Blue Hill, some additional delays to work through there, looking pretty heavy both sides. Durban, the N2 running north up through Spaghetti Junction, busy as normal from the M7 up through Westwood Mall. The N3 is a disaster over the rumble strips. Queues from Paradise Valley to Spaghetti Junction. Big overflow onto the M13, Westfield Sherwood heavy. And the M7 into Pinetown's been really bad this week. It is again this morning. Big queues from Hans Detman up over St John's Avenue Bridge territory. Cape Town very misty and everything on a go slow because of that. Some of the bigger queues this morning. The R300 north onto the N1 outbound is very slow, and the N7 jam-packed from 4 Trekker Road in Goodwood all the way through towards the Bosmansdam Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me start with 1 or 2 of your voice notes. Let me start with this one that picks up from that conversation we were having with Nkululeko Nkewu just a few minutes ago about the sale of tickets and the whole debacle ahead of the Nedbank Cup final.
Hi, Thulasizwe. I get what Nkululeko said, but now the issue is apparently there are also people who bought tickets and they were later reversed. So they did get the tickets on open tickets, but they were told they got refunded. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But yeah, as for me, I got my 4 tickets.
Yeah, lucky you. Hey, lucky you. I mean, many people, there's a number of people who are in that category that you are alluding to, who actually received a ticket, and this would be the electronic version of the ticket. And we've read some reports that are saying that some people are saying that they are simply going to show up, which could be a recipe for real problems. But the SAPS assuring us that they have that situation under control come tomorrow. Let me take this one on the story we reported that resulted in the murder of a grade 10 pupil in Soweto involving the UJ students.
My name is Thulasizwe. The behavior of the student is totally changed nowadays. It's changed. They behave in a manner that were not even taught at home. But how could they resort to force the bus driver to take them to alcohol place? Yeah, last week we were talking about someone who banned the vehicle in Eastern Cape. Today is this ones.
Yeah.
Those children, man. Yeah. I don't know what to do about them. I don't know what can I say actually. It's just disappointing about them.
Yeah.
I think you'll be done, Krugersdorp.
Peter, thank you for that. Absolutely shocking behavior. I agree with you. But I wonder to what extent are they a reflection? Is that behavior a reflection of the kind of society in which they are growing up? A society where such instances, where people just want to impose their will and their rights over and above the rights and interests of everyone else, and believe that their will and their preferences should take precedence over everything else. I wonder. And also where violence is becoming normalized and we're sort of being numbed to violence. The de-escalation element. You're a university student, for goodness sake. You are preparing to lead society. You should be learning to deal with issues like conflict and knowing how to de-escalate a situation. And I wonder to what extent they are a reflection of all of us as a society in how we deal with some of these matters. I'll go to a call in a moment that has to do with comments made by the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. But let me start with this voice note, which also raises the same point.
Thulasizwe, good morning to you. It's Veli Mdluli of Richards Bay, I'm a tracker. Thulasizwe, in my entire life, knowing and understanding South African politics, it's the first time I hear a South African politician speaking the truth. Mbalula saying they are concerned about losing power into the opposition, because that's the only concern that they have, losing power, because they want to stay in power. Rather than that, they don't care. So it's the only concern that they have and that they will have in their entire political journey. I thank you.
Yes, well, thank you for that, and drive safely. What a way of putting it and just framing it all. I didn't anticipate, as you were talking about him being an honest politician, I didn't anticipate that the point you are going to make is that their main concern is losing power and not I suppose, delivery and the welfare of South Africans. That I did not see coming. Nice twist to that comment. Khotso in Malutia Pofong, you also want to weigh in on these comments made by the ANC Secretary General. Good morning.
Goeiemôre Thulasizwe Simelane. Hoe gaan dit?
Goed, dankie hoor. Hoe gaan dit?
Thulas, let me send my condolences to Mr. Ndlovu and his partner Zota. The killing of the people, the business of kidnapping, it will never end, because a lot of people are rich because of kidnapping and killing the people, and there is no accountability. During the week I was listening you speak to one of the guys who is fighting for the prisoners to have laptop, to have access over everything. Yes, it's fine. They can do it, but one day it's going to happen to him. I wonder how he's going to feel. Let's get into the politics. ANC has lost 3 watts in KZN because of the wage reconfiguration. I don't know. I'm true or wrong. You will tell me. A person who collapsed the ANC in KZN is Begim Dolo. Begim Dolo is gone. They reconfigure him. Who is going to be reconfigured? Because now the ANC has lost 3 watt in KZN. The beginning of the beginning of the end of the ANC it's now arrived in us. So now I'm asking a simple question: who is going to be held accountable? Because the ANC policy saying everything is under a collective decision. Who is going to be called accountable?
Gotcha. Khotso, thank you for that. So it's a question of, can you reconfigure the reconfigured leadership of KwaZulu-Natal in light of the concerns about the electoral performance of recent weeks in the by-elections? Glenn in Bedfordview, good morning. You also want to talk about the same situation at the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal?
Good morning to my brother. Yes, I am very happy that the ANC is being sort of driven out of power. I can't wait for next year's elections. The guys are very arrogant to us. I was a very strong ANC supporter myself, but ANC people are very arrogant. You should see their councillors. They don't care about the people to us. They're involved in dodgy deals. They lease municipal land illegally. They do all the sorts of things because they know that even if you go to council, they're in majority. So I am very happy that ANC is driven out of power, and I want next year's elections. The ANC must lose everything. They must sit in opposition benches. There mustn't be any deals of coalition, nothing like that. They must be out of power completely so that they can wake up
and understand that we are sick and tired of their politics.
Sure, Glenn. Strong words there. That's Glenn in Bedford View. Glenn, so when they talk about renewal, all right, Glenn is gone there. I wanted to ask him whether he's not sold at all by this talk of renewal and changing their ways and being honest with themselves that they are no longer a majority party. But let's move on. Jacques in KwaZulu-Natal, good morning. You want to talk to me about this incident that happened between the UJ students and the pupils in Soweto?
Yes, good morning to you and your team. Thank you for hosting the best show on radio.
Thank you.
And that's my opinion, and I don't agree with you all the time, so that's a really very good opinion of statement to say. Okay, in terms of the students, yesterday there was a gentleman, I think, that was talking from the school or representative of the school from which the child had died or passed away, and he wanted the university to actually pay for the funeral or assist in the funeral. On that matter, I'd like to just say that if they actually find and the witnesses are proven to be true, that the students that they have taken into custody are the students that actually murdered this child, I think their family should be responsible for it. I think what you said, your statement that you stated earlier, actually took away some of the things that I wanted to say, which were 100% true. That if these students are actually getting a higher education and behaving even worse, where are we heading to in this country, and what forms of ethics do we have in terms of the future of this country? That I think, like you're saying, I think is a very questionable thing that we need to ask ourselves as society in South Africa. And the other one is the statements that the other specialists answered in terms of the equity or land equity at the moment in South Africa. I think from a person that comes from a rural area in KwaZulu-Natal, I would tell you that where there were more than 5, 6, 7, 10 Indian farmers within a certain district, most of those farmers have actually sold up because their children have been educated, they've moved on, they've become whatever specialists in their field, and they don't see the need to come back to their farms. So most of these farms, to be honest with you, have been sold to other white farmers or white farmers, children of white farmers, and they actually still want to work the land. So the question is, in terms of how many black farmers or non-white farmers are actually buying into the renewal. The other thing is that I know of an incident where the land bank at the moment is basically funding non-white farmers, and they're not producing anything. They're squandering the funds that they've been used. So I think that we can't just state that without having a holistic view of everything else.
Jacques, thank you for that. You raised quite a number of issues, including that issue that was raised earlier on about our land reform program, as well as the weaknesses that are identified in it. Begin Mpumalanga, good morning. You want to talk about this situation with the tickets?
Nguni, good morning.
Good morning.
Nguni, before I became the attorney of the High Court, I've been a sport producer, I've been a sport commentator, I've been a sport administrator and a presenter. Sport is in my DNA.
Yeah.
I am deeply worried with the situation, what is happening in KZN with regards to the tickets. But I want to urge whoever who's listening to this conversation or my contribution from PSL to say that please, the best is to open the gates as early as possible so that you can have remedies and to check how best can you resolve any situation that might cause challenges. I was there at Ellis Park. I was part of the people who assisted the people who passed on, and the situation was horrible.
Yeah.
We don't want to witness that again at Thulasizwe. It's a painful situation. It's a painful condition. So if we see it now that it might happen, please, I'm urging the PSL, I'm urging even the security forces. We are lucky that in Durban there is a Ethekwini Metro and security officers, private security, and the PSL security. I beg them to come together, but the best will be to open the gates as early as 9 o'clock. Thank you so
Biggie,
much.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, those are wise words from Biggie there, that, because of the set of circumstances that we face now, it calls for extra vigilance on the part of the PSL and other authorities as well. I mean, I can't add to what Biggie has said. The circumstances are what they are, and we better wise up especially taking the history that Biggie cites, the painful history that Biggie cites into account. Let me stick with that theme and take Mfundo in Cape Town. Mfundo, good morning. You also want to talk to me about these tickets and this debacle?
Yes. Good morning to us, and you can hear he's well experienced in this, and I'll agree with him that the gates needs to be open as early as possible, because there's unfortunately nothing that can be done now.
Yes,
the damage has
this is where we
already.
are.
Yeah, it is where we are. However, going forward, which is a thought, I don't know if anyone from the PSL is listening or from SAFA or whoever. Why can't South Africa follow what England does, the FA, where all the finals are centralized at Wembley instead of moving the goalpost all over the place? We know that, for instance, I'm not staying in Gauteng, I'm staying in Cape Town, but making FNB the central venue for all the finals, whatever the cup. And then if you want to go and watch the cup, you prepare that way in advance.
Yeah.
I know that municipalities are losing on revenue here, because these stadiums are owned by municipalities, not by any football club. But going forward, to prevent all this chaos, just imagine during the week, Central wanted to close the main road that leads to the stadium. If it wasn't for Central coming to the rescue here, it could have been worse chaos than what we are now.
Yeah, Mfundo, thank you for that. I suppose part of the difficulty, Mfundo, would be that when you have a cup final where the teams don't enjoy that level of support, and you've already set FNB Stadium as the main venue for all cup finals, you might have a bit of an empty stadium, which aesthetically doesn't look so great. But at least from a safety perspective, that would be well handled. And I did hear the comments from the CEO of the PSL talking about there is no venue in the country that is big enough. There's absolutely no venue that is big enough for the Soweto derby. Fair and fine, but comparatively speaking, selling 41,000 tickets at Moses Mabhida Stadium versus selling 75,000, 80,000 tickets at FNB is certainly much better. I know that there are issues about the availability of FNB and the likes, but I still feel that the date on which to play at FNB is one factor that possibly could have been considered, and it is well within the PSL's control. But anyway, that's where we are now. Let me take a call from Majoro in the Free State. You want to talk to me about what Fikile Mbalula has said about KZN?
Yes. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Let me get to the point. One of the commentators spoke about the ANC not caring about service delivery, but rather caring about
losing
winning
power.
Elections. Yes, we are a political being. The political being as a party exists to contest elections. So losing elections is one of our key existence. So we contest elections. Yes, one of the winning elections to make sure that we provide service deliveries. So winning elections as a political being, it's a concern to us. Secondly, for SG to talk about losing wards or losing power, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, he was trying to be diplomatic about winning his wedding. I think our concern is what we experienced in the 80s, where a tribal party existed in KwaZulu-Natal, end up into a violence. What we are seeing is the same pattern that we are through in the 80s. That is similar towards that we are seeing a tribal party emerging in a particular section of the country, which becomes a threat both to the stability and the political.
Is that how you're reading it in KZN? Wait, let me ask you. Let me engage you. Do you see it as an emergence of a tribal-based party being more accountable for what happened in the election more than it is the objective failures of the ANC in government?
The ANC has never failed because there's nothing that we can compare with it. We don't have a barometer that we can say there was this party before 1994 that we black people benefited from. Therefore, we are measuring against. The ANC has never failed. The ANC since 1994 has succeeded beyond any measure of any party in the African continent. So there's no party that we can measure against the ANC in this country.
All right. Gotcha. Majoro, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people will have their own views on what Majoro has said there. Kaya in Richards Bay, good morning. You want to talk about the judiciary in this country?
Makuto said, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. Yes. Now we have lost so many things in the country as a matter of failing in this era and this area. But judiciary supposed to be our last line of defense.
Yeah.
But now we can see our judiciary falling apart in front of us. You remember that Judge Mokoeng, Chief Justice then, he once said there were attempts to capture judiciary. And he was sounding an alarm. But what we see now is evident to the fact that our judiciary is captured, my brother. You cannot beat up a person in front of the cameras. Being on duty, you go to court. You are released, scot-free. You rape more than 30 girls, my brother. And these people present themselves in the front of the judge for so many years, crying right in front of the judge.
But
the modus operandi of Omotoso was obvious that he did it.
I do need to move on, but let me challenge you. How does the failure in that case speak to a judiciary that's captured? If the prosecution doesn't present its case well before the judge, how is the judge supposed to find this person guilty? I mean, in that judgment, for example,
my brother,
the judge makes the point that I don't necessarily believe these explanations that this accused has given, but you did such a shoddy job that the law says I must acquit this person.
No, my
it's
brother,
what the law says.
I beg to differ, my brother. If the prosecutor is wanting, over the years, the judge should have seen that. But the judge cannot present herself as a helpless, useless person presiding over the court. Then you throw away the whole justice for girls. That is not right. Our justice system is falling apart, my brother. I'm telling you.
Gotcha. Kaya, thank you for that.
Thank
you for that. That's Kaya in Richards Bay with a view that our justice system is falling apart and presenting that case as an example, the Omotosho case.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy coming out of Pretoria on the M1 South this morning. It's this earlier crash that happened between Rigel Avenue and the R21. The traffic queue into this is all the way back through almost to Stormful. So really big traffic heading that way. There's also been a crash on the M1 North at John Foster. That traffic backlogging through Brockfontein and down towards the R55 exit on the N14 Krugersdorp Highway. Also crash on Summit Road, the 562, just on the western side of Blue Hills. So between Deepslit and Blue Hills, extra pressure there. And a collision on the Mike 1 North this morning near Glenhove, so pretty heavily backed on the run through from the Boysons area. Durban's M7, it's been a problem this week, and it is again this morning. Some really heavy traffic lined up from the Huntstepman Highway up over St John's Avenue Bridge into Pinetown, the N3, queuing over those rumble strips, backlogs from Paradise Valley, the M4, some roadworks at Clarewood, so that's heavy as you come up from Jacobs this morning on that Southern Freeway inbound to central Durban. And Cape Town, pretty misty conditions across the region. Take it easy, please. Conditions in terms of driving and congestion all very slow because of that. It's been very heavy coming through Durbanville this morning on the Wellington Road, and the R300 North is stuck in a queue from Van Riebeek Road up to a link to the N1 outbound at Brackenfell. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Amatats ladies and Tuhitwata ladies are meeting for a tense battle. They are both in search of 3 crucial points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the spectacular action of Mzansi Women's Football, University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Royal AM Ladies FC, the Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, let's turn our attention to the story. Public resistance to steep municipal tariff hikes is gaining national momentum, sparked by Cape Town's residents and their strong opposition to the proposed increases in rates and services. A petition that has already drawn over 10,000 signatures may be the catalyst, that's one view, for a broader countrywide movement as civic organizations urge South Africans to speak out against what many view as unfair and potentially unlawful billing practices. Part of the people who hold the view I just expressed there is Rob Hutchinson, who's the founder of Dear South Africa, who joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Rob, and thank you for your time. To what extent is this resistance in Cape Town a lightning rod for disgruntlement and dissatisfaction about municipal billing processes, the understanding thereof, the necessity thereof versus what people can afford?
Well, the city of Cape Town has definitely sparked a major controversy, not just in their municipality, but countrywide. The increases that residents are seeing in city of Cape Town are quite extortionate. Some will see up to 30, even 40% increase in their monthly rates and taxes. Mostly around a shift in the way rates and taxes are now calculated. They're now calculated according to the value of your property. However, there are new tariffs that have been introduced in new services, such as a citywide cleaning service, which a lot of residents are complaining about. They already paid for cleaning services and refuse removal and so on. So these are added tariffs. However, this has gone countrywide, as all municipalities around about this time every year put out their budget proposals and tariff increases, and all of them are showing a significant increase across the board on water, electricity, refuse removal, and so on.
Yeah. Is it reasonable to expect that these increases will always be CPI related and not exceed, the CPI rate? And I ask this against the backdrop of the arguments, for instance, Eskom has presented in as far as their tariff increases are concerned, that it's about the cost of bringing you this product, electricity, and against the backdrop of failing municipalities and the finances of the country not being in order. If we are to maintain a modicum of service delivery that makes for decent living, should we not expect that we might be paying slightly more in some instances, more than CPI?
Yes, definitely. As we've seen, the increases are definitely always slightly above CPI. However, in this case, I think CPI is rated at around less than 3%, 2.5%, around about there. Here we're seeing increases just in electricity alone. If you take the three increases into account, it's around about 32% across the board. And that's water. We're seeing water going up by 10%, up to 15% in some municipalities. So it is quite a drastic increase. I mean, your salary doesn't go up as much as the rates go up. Yeah. So it's becoming a bit of a affordability issue for most residents. However, we have to take into account that there are infrastructure problems. There are many other problems that do need to be sorted out, and the money does have to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And Rob, you've been talking about this then sparking a civic movement across the country. Tell me how you see this example in Cape Town of resistance playing itself out in other parts of the country, and should it necessarily follow that residents in other cities should stand up and object to some of these increases?
Yes, well, I've already seen from every single municipality across the country, districts and the metros, we launched a campaign on the public participation platform, and that goes out to the entire country. So far, we've had 36,000 comments from the public, and it's not slowing down. It's actually increasing. So what's happened in the city of Cape Town now, the mood and the thoughts of the people, the anger is now spread to the entire country.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Rob. That's Rob Hutchinson, who is the founder of Dear South Africa, weighing in on the rates increases, just tariffs across the country. There's certainly a sense of heightened awareness around some of these processes linked with the public engagement and involvement around the budget process, which also became a debacle over the last few months. 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, suspects in missing journalist case back in court, and ANC concerned about losing 3 wards to the Thulasizwe party. Good morning. 5 people arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mhluli will be back in the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today. They are facing charges including hijacking, kidnapping, robbery and possession of suspected stolen property. The suspects were all arrested separately in villages in and around KwaMhlanga on Sunday. Sasha Naidu reports.
The case against the 5 who are accused of hijacking and kidnapping the missing couple is expected to resume today, with the possibility of more charges being added to the docket. Yesterday, police recovered 2 bodies, of which they believe to be that of Ndlovu and Mhluli, who mysteriously vanished on the 18th of February. Police say one of the suspects led police to the area where the remains were found next to each other just outside Rustenburg in Limpopo, more than 70 kilometers from where the missing couple were last seen nearly 3 months ago. However, National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula says DNA testing will still have to be conducted to confirm if the bodies are that of the missing couple.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Salbi Mbenenge will resume today with the cross-examination of Judge's Secretary Ntombokolo Jobela. The evidence leader called in 2 Judges' secretaries from the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court to testify on what they knew about the saga. Kenny Mapanga reports.
Jobela gave evidence on pictures that were forwarded to her by the complainant in the probe, Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo. Jobela testified that Mengo told her that there was a quote-unquote older man or father that was abusing her and sending her pictures. This as the tribunal continues to probe Mengo's complaint that she was sexually harassed allegedly by the top judge via in-person interaction and electronic communication between June 2021 and November 2022.
The ANC has conceded that it's concerned about losing 3 wards to the Thulasizwe party in recent by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal. Under its newly appointed provincial task team, the ANC has lost Ward 2 in Richmond, 28 in Kwadukuza and Ward 18 in Mandeni. The ANC national leadership and the provincial task team met yesterday to evaluate progress made in the ongoing organizational renewal efforts in the province. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula addressed the media in Durban after the meeting.
We have lost, and we did not camouflage that loss in KwaZulu-Natal. We are a 17% party, and we need to get out of that. We have been working on a program of renewal and a comeback in KZN. Is it working up to this far? It is. There are sparkles of good work that has been done, and I'm not over defensive and saying that no, everything is hunky-dory, we are winning, we are not concerned. We have lost important wards of the ANC from members of the ANC who left the ANC and crossed over to the opposition.
Advocacy group Section 27 says it does not understand the Gauteng Health Department's rationale for appealing a court order to provide cancer treatment for patients. The department has announced it intends to appeal the ruling of the High Court in Johannesburg last month. The group says it will oppose the appeal. Section 27 Head of Health Rights Kanye Mapipa says nothing in the ruling has prejudiced the department in terms of compliance.
To us,
these seem like very reasonable requests from the court, and also things that the department ought to have in its books already. So kicking a fuss about these orders, we really don't understand where it comes from. And in any way, any money that the department is being required by the court to spend on patients is money that the department would have had to spend already.
And finally, Pakistan has denied India's claims that its missiles and drones have destroyed 3 military stations in the Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan's Defence Ministry says if it had attacked, everyone would have known. The BBC's Azadeh Mushiri has the details.
We spoke to the Defence Minister of Pakistan and he denied any involvement. Now, earlier, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahbaz Sharif, had a phone call. And the Defence Minister said that he believes there could be some hope of de-escalation in that phone call, but that he feels the time for a breakthrough is no longer possible. And that statement carries a lot of weight when the stakes are so high and the prospect of a wider conflict is hovering across this region.
Recapping the top story, 5 people arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mdluli will be back in the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
You won't hear this in the news headlines, but it's definitely worth talking about. Lorette, a 61-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who switched and now saves a newsworthy 725 Rand a month on her 2024 BMW X1. That's 725 Rand more money in her pocket every month. Why pay more when you could pay less? Get a quote from Outsurance today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Joburg's R21 away from the airport, moving up towards Tembisa, direction Pretoria. Roadworks in place by the Benoni. Exit traffic is queuing as far back as Pomona Road. Crash on the Mike 1 North, heading up towards Sandton. That collision scene just by Glenhove Road, effectively joining a queue right back to Boyson's this morning. And the Mike 1 South with that lane closure at Carr Street. That's slowing down. That's going to be busy all day today. Very busy around Pretoria. Early crash on the M1 South around the Rigel Avenue R21 section. Traffic coming into that. Still very slow from the Emma-Lefleni split. There's big traffic on the N14 North. That's up towards Brockfontein interchange. Crash on the R55 at Olivenote Bosch causing delays. And also that collision on Summit Road between Diepsloot and Blue Hill. Still backlogging traffic in that side as well. Durban's N3 inbound. Another very slow morning from Paradise Valley through those rumble strips on your way through towards Spaghetti Junction. The Kwamashu Highway and Queen Nandi Drive. Both routes towards the N2. Looking very busy this morning. And Cape Town easing up, but it's very misty around town. So please take it nice and easy. There's some queues on the R300 north to the N1 at Brackenfell and the N2 inbound clear at Khayelitsha, but you'll hit traffic from Langa through Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer, Nedbank Cup final tomorrow. Chiefs and Pirates set for the historic Soweto Derby showdown. Despite the ticketing chaos. And we'll also bring you rugby news with Brian O'Driscoll praising Mario Toje's leadership, citing his unwavering performance and levels. And this is with regards to the Lions tour. All this and more just before 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Friday. It's great to be in your company. We're into the third hour of the Morning Brief. This is SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. We've lit the conversational fuse and the conversation is exploding in multiple directions this morning. Among the issues that have been on the table is the issue around the tickets and the debacle, that entire debacle that has played itself out ahead of the Nedbank Cup final. Lots of excitement and anticipation for this Soweto derby, our country's and possibly the continent's biggest, football fixture. And you have this situation in the build-up with more tickets being sold than the venue can actually plan and take. Remember, what they tend to do is that if the venue is a particular capacity, in this case, we're told Moses Mabhida, 56,000 thereabouts. They don't sell all 56,000 seats. Usually, you then have the capacity determined by the organizers of the event, of the match. So in this case, at the last update, we were told 41,000 tickets were sold. But, more people were charged, especially those who bought online were charged, and some received something that is said to be a ticket only to be told a bit later on. But sorry, we sold more tickets than we were supposed to, and therefore we're revoking and reversing that. So that's really sort of soured the mood somewhat ahead of the Nedbank Cup. A lot of you reacting to that. But we've also been talking about the crime situation in our country, especially in light of the police discovering the remains of Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu, the journalist, and his partner Zodwa Mdluli yesterday, after 79 days of a search, as well as that incident that happened in Soweto with the UJ students, and the murder that then occurred of a grade 10 pupil. Any of these conversations, if they are on your mind, as well as anything else that you may want to raise with me, I'm all ears, and I'll be willing to engage you on that. Give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Slipper Day is on the 30th of May, and I'm helping to make big dreams come true. When you support Slipper Day, you're helping Reach for a Dream bring smiles and joy to children facing tough illnesses. Do you want to help too? You can visit reachforadream.org.za to find out more about Slipper Day. Let's do it for the dreamers! This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Amatats ladies and Thulasizwe ladies are meeting for a tense battle. They are both in search of 3 crucial points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the spectacular action of Mzansi Women's Football, University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Royal AM Ladies FC, the Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Catch SAFTA award-winning cooking reality show The Tastemaster SA from Tuesday the 13th of May at 7:30. Watch as 10 talented contestants take on delicious challenges to impress celebrity chef Zola Nene, along with special guest judges. Don't miss the season premiere, a heartfelt tribute to the incredible moms who inspire us all. That's Tuesday the 13th at 7:30 p.m. The Tastemaster SA, only on SABC2.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, inundated with your WhatsApp voice notes. So I tell you what, I'll pull myself back once again and just let you speak out on those issues that are foremost in your mind. Someone wants to talk about the Henops River this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, LP. I just want to ask a question, man. What about these other 2 bodies that were found in Henops River? Because I believe the other body is for the cop and the other one was identified. What's happening to them? I mean, are you guys only focus only on these 3 constables? Then what about the 2? I'm biased. LP, thank you.
Great question. Thank you for that. And thank you for posing it. I don't know about whether it exposes a bias. Perhaps it exposes, I don't know, the extent to which people quickly move on from issues. You are absolutely spot on. It is a question worth going back to because there were two other bodies that were found, the one being of the SAPS employee from around that area, and we were told the circumstances thereabout, about how that came about, the body to be found there. Then there was this unidentified body. It really leaves a question of how did this person die, were they killed, who killed them, etc. So absolutely spot on. It's a story that we shouldn't abandon as we move on to other stories.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The issue of race belongs to the politicians, but to the Christians, we all belong to the human race. And for the Catholics, race is not important. Only what that is important is that they have a Catholic leader who will lead them. I'm Bafana Kumalo in Meme.
Thank you for that, Bafana Kumalo. Let me take some of your calls now. Let me move on to Tabiso in Polokwane. Good morning to you, Tabiso. On the tickets, short and sharp for me, please.
Tilas, we're not being told the truth here. This country, almost 40 years ago, hosted one of the biggest trophies of soccer, the World Cup in 2010. So now, what lessons have we learned from the World Cup in terms of selling of tickets? We can't have a problem of tickets 14 years later when we had a seamless World Cup, where everyone was allocated a ticket and a seat. Who would know that Thulasizwe Simelane is sitting at number 32 or number 49? So now, 14 years later, we're told that any stadium in the country can host Chiefs and Pirates on the basis of only because, on the basis of our readiness or tickets and all of that. What are the lessons that we learn in soccer is concerned? It is going to be a disaster on Saturday. Someone must be accountable for it.
100%.
We can't hold the World Cup and be told about all this. The truth must come out. Why? Was it because of sponsorship clashes as a result? I suspect it was. It has nothing to do with the capacity and all of that.
Yeah.
We have all what it takes to get to this country to host everything.
I can't agree with you more, Tabiso. Spot on, 100%. That's Tabiso in Polokwane. Let me move on to Ernest in the Free State. Good morning. Also on the same issue.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. Short and sharp for me, please.
Well, tomorrow I foresee a problem because I believe PSL and Nedbank together have made a big error. If there is an issue of clash of stadiums, let me make an example. Betway Premiership is always played at FNB Stadium, and sometimes it is Betway and FNB. There is no clash of sponsorship. Why didn't they talk about clash of sponsorship? I foresee a big problem tomorrow because I believe they have failed this month. They have failed this country because only FNB can host such a big game, a game of this magnitude.
Yeah. No, Ernest, thank you for that. And in fairness, I've not heard anyone officially at least, I've not heard anyone saying that the concern was that this is the Nedbank Cup and it was going to be played at the FNB Stadium and that clash of brands. I've not heard that being the official explanation. The explanation I've heard is that the stadium is just not available tomorrow. But I've been wondering, couldn't this fixture be moved to a date when the stadium is available? But that's just me. I don't have any insider knowledge or expertise in this matter, but I take the point that you are making about that. Let me take Bonagele in Kaelicha. Good morning. You want to talk about the crime situation in the country?
I'm going to be short and sweet as you requested.
Sure. Please, go ahead.
We keep on hearing this people being murdered and stuff. So with regard to the sentences, it's something that I'm still doubting if justice system is going to play a role so that people can stop this. That's the only way that I can say this. So we can be shocked today of what really happened with this, but tomorrow or the next month, it's something that happens on a daily basis.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
The justice system is very weak in this country. Only the time it can be very harsh so that these people, and I've been saying, and in fact, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Why a parole for someone who killed someone?
Yeah.
Why? If you are sentenced 45 years, why don't you serve 45 years in jail?
Yeah.
So that's the only solution, I'd rather. Have a nice one and enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thank you, Bonagele and Kaelicha. In fact, on the same theme, then, let me take Xolani in Boksburg. Good morning, Xolani. You want to talk about the judiciary?
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe, and the listener. Thulasizwe, I was just listening to you, and I felt like, are you trying to defend the judiciary or saying it's not captured? Because how you sound sometimes is like maybe when you're saying, let's stick to the judgment, what did the judgment in Omatoso say?
Yeah.
But when there's evidence and the judgment doesn't consider the evidence, there were people present, witnesses, victims, and you were saying, no, the judgment was correct.
I'm glad you asked that, Xolani. Do you want to add or do you want me to respond to it?
No, I want you to respond, and
okay,
then
let me respond. So perhaps my disadvantage, or I don't know, disadvantage, Xolani, is that I have legal training. I have that background to me, and I'm in a particular process, and I've come to understand over the period of time that the accused person doesn't have to help the prosecution prove the case against them. You don't have to incriminate yourself. It is the duty of the state, as represented by the prosecutor, to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. Now, when that doesn't happen, the way it works, if you look at the scales of justice, the way it works is that the one side puts a weight on the one side of the scale. It's the duty of the other side to put a weight to balance that. To cancel out, if I say you killed this person intentionally and therefore you are guilty of murder, it's up to you to then prove that some of the elements I've not been able to prove. And when a judge says the prosecution did not, for instance, cross-examine the witnesses the way that they should have done, that's a real factor there that weighed, even if the judge in his mind or her mind thinks this person is guilty, the prosecution has not done what they were supposed to do in law, prove that this person is guilty of this murder beyond a reasonable doubt. So what I was saying earlier on, just lastly, Xolani, is that case is not the best example of the argument that the judiciary is captured. And if you do believe that it is, give me an example then that's better than that case, because that case has its own nuances, as I've outlined in the last few seconds.
Not that I want to go into the merits of the case, but from where I'm standing, and I'm saying to you, so when you have the evidence, doesn't matter how perhaps the opening line or the closing line, when you have the evidence, somebody shot a person, like the example that you just made, and there is evidence on that, and you are saying, we as the lawyers will rely, or the court will rely on how your opening statement and closing statement was the merit of the case. No, the judge should rely on evidence. So if our judiciary doesn't rely on evidence presented, and you were saying, no, it wasn't presented in a fashionable way, much than the defense, is that the real justice system of our country?
I hear you.
That's fine.
And I hear you, Xolani. You see, that's where you and I agree. That's not fine. That's not fine. And when you talk about the justice system, it's its entirety, not just the judiciary. Everyone within that system should play their role such that you and I don't sit here where you and I objectively believe that there's evidence that this person committed this crime, but we see them walking away scot-free because one portion of the justice system has not played its role. But thank you for engaging me on this matter. I do need to move on, Xolani. I have another interview that I need to take. But thank you for raising these matters. That's Xolani there in Boksburg. Let me move on because I do need to go to the next story.
Do you want an experience of a lifetime? Where every day is filled with challenges of providing Lisa Vanderpump curated experiences while dealing with rivalries, romances, and misadventures. It's drama at Vanderpump's French Estate. Chantel, Rosabelle, and the staff can't wait to give you a front row seat to all the drama. Catch Vanderpump Villa, Saturdays on S3 at 8:30 p.m. S3 open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's move on to this now. As May Measurement Month gains momentum, health experts are sounding the alarm on one of the world's most dangerous and underdiagnosed conditions, hypertension, often referred to as the silent killer, with 74% of patients unaware that they are at risk and millions of lives lost annually. This country joins a global campaign to encourage citizens to check their blood pressure, take control of their health and help curb the rising tide of cardiovascular disease. Let's speak to Professor Erica Jones, who is president of the Southern African Hypertension Society. Prof, good morning and thank you for your time. What is hypertension and why is it so little understood or less understood?
Hi there. Thanks so very much for having me. So hypertension is high blood pressure. And the problem is that high blood pressure is something we can't see. Most of us can't feel it. And what happens is that people have a stroke or a heart attack, and that is from high blood pressure. And that's the first time they see that their blood pressure is up. But you can detect it a lot earlier than... You don't have to have a stroke first before we can check the blood pressure. So it's very easy to check a blood pressure, and it's extremely important that we look for hypertension, high blood pressure, and we treat it and control it to prevent strokes, heart attacks, heart failure, and kidney disease.
When we say it's very easy to check, why is it then that it goes unchecked and we end up talking about hypertension being the silent killer?
So it's so easy to check. You just basically have a cuff that's put around your arm and it squeezes tight, and then it releases as it releases the pressure, it checks it determines the pressure. So it's not invasive at all, but we all forget to do it. We don't go and see our doctor. We've got too many things going on. It's just something that people just don't do because they forget about it. There are other screening programs that are really well established, and they're doing very well, like the HIV screening programs. And I think that we can learn from this and try and optimize screening for hypertension as we have with HIV in South Africa.
And is this where then campaigns such as May Measurement Month, as well as the Because I Say So campaigns, is this where they come in? What are they aimed at achieving?
This is exactly what they've done. The International Society of Hypertension, May Measurement Month, and the Because I Say So campaign have all been trying to promote awareness and get people to go out and check their blood pressures, to know their numbers and to decide or find out if they need treatment and to get treatment.
And how frequently should I be checking my blood pressure, Prof? As well as, other issues, talk to the other issues around lifestyle, the interventions that need to happen there.
So all adults should have their blood pressure checked every year. And if you have got high blood pressure, you need to have a check more frequently, 3 months, 6 months, depending on how well it is controlled. So I'm just going to give a number, 120/70. So those are the numbers where you want it to be. And if it's above that, then what you want to do is check it more frequently and try and control it. Hypertension often comes with diabetes and high cholesterol. So you want to check these as well, again, once a year. And what you can do to try and prevent and treat hypertension is institute lifestyle changes. So the lifestyle changes that we talk about are exercise. Every day you want to exercise, 30 minutes, cardiovascular exercise, resistance training. These are all very helpful. Mindfulness as well. And then you want to increase the fresh fruit and vegetables in your diet and decrease the salt and the sugar in your diet. So it's basically making sure we're eating healthily, living healthily, exercising, and not just 30 minutes of exercise in a day. When you are just for the rest of your day, you want to also be active and continuously active so that you can decrease your blood pressure.
All right, Prof. I'm glad we've had this conversation. That's Professor Erica Jones, who is president of the Southern African Hypertension Society. Come on, folks, let's do this thing. It's only once a year. It's really not that much, as well as those interventions that Prof was talking about in our lifestyles.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning to you. And if your blood pressure is high this morning, you blame it on the ticketing drama as well as the derby tension. All eyes, Moses Mabhida Stadium is where Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates prepare for a blockbuster Nedbank Cup final tomorrow. Excitement turning to frustrations after over 50,000 tickets were sold, surpassing the stadium's 49,000 capacity, the system crashing, thousands were double billed and long queues formed as fans scrambled for refunds. Despite the chaos, the anticipation is high for this historic Soweto derby, the first cup final meeting between the two sides in over a decade. Catch it live on SABC Sport. Now, the former SuperSport United Juniors and Zambian Under-20 international defender Melimo Nelumangu says the Crunch Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations game against South Africa is very special to him. It's happening this evening, 8 p.m.
It's definitely going to be interesting playing against a few old friends, and of course South Africa is a really good side. But I think we'll give 100% and we're definitely looking for a win.
And tell me more about you growing up. Where was this?
In South Africa, I grew up in Johannesburg. Yeah, Johannesburg. That's where I grew up. My family, based in South Africa.
And you started playing football there?
Yeah, I started playing football there. I played most of my football for SuperSport United FC. So yeah.
In the meantime, the Sharks were missing a big gun when they battle Ospreys at Kings Park tonight. Oxen Che is ill. He's been replaced by Dejan Buehler as loose head prop in one of three changes to the starting 15 that beat Ulster in Belfast. Ibn Esabet was a late withdrawal from that match, but the veteran Bok enforcer returns to the starting lineup. Meanwhile, Maro Otoje has been appointed captain of the British and Irish Lions for the 2025 Australia Tour, becoming the first Englishman in 24 years to do so. Now we've got the former skipper, Brian O'Driscoll, who believes the Lions can defeat the Wallabies under his guidance.
I think this team is perfectly set up for a series win. Of course, Australia won't roll over in their own backyard, but you look from the leadership of Maro Itoje, there's a number of players on their second and third tours, and then you've got some of that youthful exuberance coming through, Pollock and Finn Smith and these guys that don't have any scar tissue with Lions, which is also a good thing. So I anticipate it's going to be a brilliant tour, a brilliant spectacle.
And finally, the vacant women's flyweight title fight is expected to ignite the EFC hexagon tonight when Amanda Lino makes her return. She'll take on Mariana Salles of Brazil. The Durban-born Lino had this to say.
My life just went on a different journey, and I focused on coaching and growing my business. A lot of people say you've been out of the game for a long time. I haven't been away from the sports. I've been doing MMA every day, in and out. And it was just about really finding the right time. And the time, like you said next to me, JC, the time is now. Everything just aligned for me, perfectly in my life. I feel really good. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And I made a decision to, kind of find that passion again and ignite that fire. And that's happened for me now. I found my reason why, and you'll see on Thursday night why.
And that's the wrap of the Morning Brief Sport. More knockout sport coming up with John Hediger around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the coffin of Constable Qebekulu Linda has arrived at the St. Rose Catholic Church in Bochabela, Bloemfontein. It has been moved from the family house where mourners and family had gathered to view the constable's body. 5 people arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mhluli will be back in the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today. And the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbanenge will resume today with the cross-examination of Judge's Secretary Ntomboxolo Jubela. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Just a note, if you're coming off the Vaal, that earlier tanker fire incident between Verrilling and Meyerton dealt with pretty quickly. There's no impact on the R59 route. The Mike 1 coming up from Boyson's only way to Sandton, pretty slow today, queuing up from the Boyson's exit right through to about Empire Road. The N3 is pretty slow from Bedford View, moving through Galuli's up to a breakdown near the Modderfontein Road exit. And of course, the roadworks on the R21 slowing traffic approaching the Benoni exit. That's as you leave the airport, heading through towards Pretoria. N1 South looking much better than it did earlier this morning. Durban, the N3 inbound, the rumble strips around Pavilion Mall causing delays, passing them all on your way to Spaghetti Junction. It'll be pretty busy all day today, and a big influx tomorrow will slow things up as well. The M7 up over St John's Avenue Bridge into Pinetown stays heavy, and there's delays on both the Komashu Highway and Queen Nandi Drive options coming out of Komashu down towards the N2 Highway. Cape Town conditions generally easing as well as a little bit of a hang-on of traffic on the M1 South through Brackenfell area. Marine Drive busy at Sunset Beach and busy at Pardon Island, and the M3 inbound from Rhodes Drive, just slow passing UCT towards Hospital Bend. With the traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
We all have dreams. Some people dream to be astronauts, while others want to yell, Vimba, as they chase that elusive shoplifter sprinting out and into Diamond Walk. Others might look at a broomstick and think to themselves that witchcraft might be the way to go. The possibilities are endless. But for Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, their dreams is to make it big in the English football leagues. Tune into Welcome to Wrexham as the duo aim to turn Wrexham AFC into an underdog story that the world can root for, bringing hope and change to the community. Welcome to Wrexham, Saturdays at 3 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Amatax ladies and Thulasizwe ladies are meeting for a tense battle. They are both in search of 3 crucial points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the spectacular action of Mzansi Women's Football, University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Royal AM Ladies FC, the Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
24 minutes to 9. As the country marks the 3rd anniversary of the adoption of the Code of Good Practice on the prevention and elimination of harassment in the workplace, there's a great deal of reflection on workplace bullying. The code came into effect in March 2022 and is aimed at plugging gaps in and complementing legislation such as the Labour Relations Act and the Employment Equity Act with regard to dealing with workplace harassment and bullying. Experts say workplace bullying can take many forms, including outright vengefulness and bigotry, as well as the more subtle practices such as assigning of menial tasks, moving employees into inferior workspaces or ostracizing them. So let's speak to Mabore Sithole, who is a leadership activist and psychologist who joins me now, to workplace expert who joins me now to take that conversation forward. Mabore, good morning and thank you for your time. Workplace bullying, what are we talking about here? How does it differ to unfair labor practices as defined in the law?
Hi, good morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners, and thanks for the opportunity. So workplace bullying is unwanted, is repeated, harmful behavior from either your leader, it could be your colleagues, and it's almost like a pattern of behavior, that's making you probably, feeling undermined, feeling unrecognized, but it's just making the whole work experience very toxic. And how different it is from, workplace conflict. I mean, the first thing is that bullying is repeated. It's almost like a pattern. And the conflict could be that there's a conflict on a specific thing, and you can deal with that. But workplace bullying at the end aims to undermine you, aims to destroy you, aims to create harm.
Yeah. Am I correct in characterizing in my introduction that some of the behaviors that would qualify as workplace bullying would include such as, taking someone who's capable, who's clearly capable and has the skills, but assigning them menial tasks, moving them to inferior workspaces, as well as what would call ostracizing a person, not involving them in the work that is being done?
Yes, there's a number of them, and one of them could be exactly what you've said, and others, obviously, there's different types of bullying. Others could be verbal, verbally undermining someone, shouting, name-calling. It could also be, as you've said, giving someone. I think the one that is very, very destructive is when now your manager gives you tasks that they know that it's impossible for you, to complete those tasks under the budget, under the, time frames, and they give it to you and they put a lot of, like they are very strong in terms of they want you to complete it and they know that it's impossible to complete. In that way, you spend time, energy, and effort doing work that is not going to, to happen.
So what? Please complete that thought. Yeah.
And I think the one that I also want to mention that is also very destructive is social exclusion. When you are feeling excluded, or the line manager, or because it's not only line managers that bully people, but you find that you are being excluded on critical decisions probably that affect you. You are also being excluded on functions. You just hear with the colleagues that there's a workplace function and I've not been included.
Sure. Wow.
Or a decision has been made and I've not been included. The part of the brain that processes physical pain is the same part of the brain that processes social exclusion. So it over time, it's almost your body responds like you are being physically harmed.
Sure. Say that again for me, Mabore. I think that's a critical point. You're saying the part of the brain that processes pain is the same as the part of the brain that processes social exclusion.
Yes. Very, very important. As I say, it's very harmful. So when somebody is beating you up, you obviously your brain, will respond in a certain way. And I just want to tell you which part of the brain that, responds that way. When you're getting, physically harmed. 1 second. So it's...
Sure. No, don't worry about it. I don't think we need the specifics of which part of the brain, but just for the purposes of this morning, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same part of the brain.
Yeah.
If somebody hits you up, and the body gets pain, and that part of the brain, responds. So when you are being socially excluded, it's the brain responds exactly the same way.
Yeah. So
it's like you are getting physically harmed.
What's our assessment of how helpful the legal and other instruments that are in place, such as the Code of Good Practice on the prevention and elimination of harassment in the workplace and others, as well as workplace-specific practices? How impactful are they in mitigating and dealing with instances of workplace bullying?
I think we are very fortunate now in South Africa with the Code of Good Practice that's just come in, because it specifically highlights bullying as part of harassment and what organizations should do to respond to workplace bullying. The important thing is the implementation of those, of the Code of Good Practice. Because the first thing that you need to do as an organization is to assess, the level of bullying, the level of harassment in the organization, so that when you come up with interventions, it's interventions that, are going to directly impact on what is happening. Unfortunately, the implementation is still a challenge in many organizations. But yes, the law, I think it's very supportive and it is very enabling. What I also like about the law is that if you are not getting joy in your organization, you can go, to the CCMA.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I've got to thank you for those insights. Really helpful and enlightening. That's Mabora Sithole, who is leadership activist as well as workplace expert, weighing in on issues of workplace bullying. And I was asking earlier on if you have experienced workplace bullying. Have you interacted, for instance, with this code of good practice? Do you even know about it? Do you know whether your organization implements any of the measures that are outlined therein? Is it helpful to you? Do share your experience with me, and I'll take your calls on that.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Right, let me start with a few of the voice notes that have come through. Quite a lot, actually, to get through. So let me start with this one. Someone wants to reflect on the Omotosho trial and the outcome therein. It's been under debate again this morning.
Good morning, Pratulas, and to all SAFM listeners. It's funny how people are blaming the justice system and the courts and the judges about the Omotoso case, instead of blaming the incompetency of the prosecutors of the NPA. That is where we should be focusing on right now, not the judges, not the justice system.
Yeah.
Even if we might not like, or even if the results were unfavorable or the judgment was unfavorable to us, but we have to face the facts.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think I know that voice very well, but it's fine. I will not expose you. Yeah, no, thank you. I think that's the point I was making, that it needs to work as a system. The part of our gripe with the crime levels and not holding people accountable and meting out justice is that if the police are not effective in investigating crime, then you can't look at the judges. You can't look at the prosecution. What do you want them to prosecute when police bring shoddy dockets that can't be proven? Because our system requires that proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think I've said enough about that. Let me take this one who wants to respond to what Majoro said about the ANC.
Thulasizwe, good morning. Majoro needs to get a reality check. The ANC has failed. The barometer that we use is their past years in power. So we will compare them to their previous years, and they are failing. So no need to sugarcoat it, Majoro.
Yeah.
Go back to the drawing board. Thank you,
Yeah, in case you missed that call from Majoro earlier on, he was saying the ANC has not failed in government, particularly with reference to what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, saying that there's no other government, other than post-1994, that you can use as a basis for comparison. So that is what that response is all about. Let me go to some of your calls. Let me start with Nhlanhla, my brother. Good morning.
Right, my friend.
Great, my brother. When
Go fresh.
Talk to me about workplace bullying.
Yeah, it's something I experienced while I was working under one chemical company. So as if I was also a shop steward, I used to receive so many warnings, and then some. And then guys will receive and then get to be told if they want them to let them go with these warnings. I must come out from union, and they will also going to pay me some extra amount, like 3,000. Up front, and then they'll tell me I must come out to, and then I'll go back to my members and tell them what the story, and the members will tell me come out. After 6 months, the warning is going to expire. After it's expired, I'll go back to my union.
Yeah,
I will do that, and then, hey, my brother, after I went back to the unions, it went worse.
Yeah, No, thank you for that.
Anyways,
Thank you, Nhlanhla, for that. That's Nhlanhla there, sharing his own experience around workplace bullying. Robert in Soweto, good morning. You also want to weigh in on the same topic, workplace bullying?
Yes, morning to us.
Good morning.
You know, I actually experienced workplace bullying, and I actually ended up resigning. You know,
Sure,
exactly
wow.
as this lady described.
Yeah.
What happened, I was the supervisor, and then the company wanted me to turn against my, actually, the people who report under me.
Uh-huh.
And when I refused to actually throw my colleagues under the bus, they started actually excluding me in key decisions. And then I started actually hearing about the changes that are happening in the company from the people who report to me.
Sure.
You know, and I got so devastated because I thought, but why are they doing this?
Yeah.
You know, because for the simple reason that I did not actually want to turn against my colleagues.
Wow.
And then what they did, they went ahead and twisted it. That I actually, the reason I resigned is because I said I want to sabotage the company.
Wow. Sure.
You know,
yeah, Robert.
and yeah, I quit the company. Now I'm an Uber driver. I worked for that company for 16 years.
Wow.
And all I got was 1 month's salary after I resigned, you know. And yeah, it left me so bitter. I mean, that happened when? In 2018.
Yeah.
It is still a scar,
Sure.
even today. to
Wow,
me.
I can imagine. Robert, thank you for sharing your experience there. And it's amazing how many people would have, we all have scars, people. We all can tell tales. But, you know, asiko lapho, let's leave it for now.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. An update from the Midrand Blue Hills area. Crash on Summit Road earlier this morning. That's the 562. It's just west of the Blue Hills crossing, so between the Blue Hills and Deepslit. Quite heavy backlogging both ways. Joburg N3 North stays busy to Montefontaine Road, queuing up through Galulis. And the Mike 1 South has those roadworks, semi-permanent arrangement there around Carr Street. So coming from Parktown into Braamfontein, that's heavy, and it just gets heavier and heavier as we go through the day. Durban, the Rumble Strip still there on the M3 inbound through Pavilion Mall to Spaghetti Junction. That's busy. It'll probably catch you out tomorrow as well, with a big weight of traffic expected into Durban, of course, for the Nedbank Cup final. And just on that matter, a lot of people still inquiring about Pietermaritzburg Ashburton section of the N3. It was scheduled to be closed this weekend. It's not going to close. It's been postponed because of the volume of traffic expected down into Moses Mabhida for that Nedbank Cup final. So that closure at Ashburton has been postponed and will happen next weekend, the 16th to 18th of May. Cape Town might still be a bit of mist lingering around, so please take it easy if it's misty where you are. And if you're venturing a little bit further afield, there's some roadworks back in on the R60 route just south of Worcester. Quite heavy traffic pressures in that area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Cool catch! Elmo thinks Elmo's friends are great! Thanks, Elmo!
I like how you cheer and encourage your friends, son.
Elmo likes it too.
Elmo, you are special. Who you are matters
Because we're all special.
Tune in to see what makes you special for the all-new episodes of Takalani Sesame, weekdays at 3 p.m. on SABC2.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Two quick voice notes about the election of Pope Leo XIV, and then I'll turn to your calls.
I'm also interested in knowing the race or ethnicity group of which Leo is coming from. We know that Chicago is a mixed, just US like South Africa. But I want to know whether he is European, Spanish, or whatever it is. I mean, we're living in a racial diverse and ethnic diverse societies. But for the background, I think it's important that we know as well. Gore.
All right, Gore, thank you for that important point. We can, I suppose, verify that and just, confirm what the situation is there. And importantly, the content of the character of the man is what will then also be highlighted.
Good morning, Tulas and the SAFM listeners. Tulas, when it comes to the matter of Pope, we as South Africans, it doesn't bother us that much because we have Barnabas Lekhanyani here, so why should we worry about the Pope? It's the only real Pope, the black Pope we know, Barnabas Lekhanyani. It's anonymous here in Klerksdorp.
Anonymous, fair enough. But I mean, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. There's a significant Catholic population in South Africa that actually does care about who leads the church at a global level. That doesn't take away from the importance and the centrality of Archbishop Barnabas Lekhanyani in this country for the Zion Christian Church. So both can be true at the same time, and both can be important and significant at the same time. Let me take some calls that have to do with this ticketing fiasco. Let me start with Stembele in Flagstaff. Good morning to you, Stembele. Short and sharp for me, please.
Sure. Listen, man. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
You know, some of us we always want to buy the tickets in a traditional way. So we were told that some tickets will be found at ShopRite. At ShopRite and ShopRite You Save. We were there, bro, queuing. Some of us took time off work just to go and queue there for those tickets. Only if you were to be in those ShopRite supermarkets, you would have seen the queues, long queues that were there. We were so frustrated. We couldn't. I don't think there is anybody who got the ticket from ShopRite.
Sure. Wow.
You know, because even this online, thing, it doesn't work for everybody. It's only those maybe who are lucky to be able to crack through.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we were there. But I doubt very much that in the Eastern Cape and probably in areas like Kokstad, there are some people that have got tickets from those centers.
What a sad situation, Stembele, for such a big game. Yeah, thank you for that. That's Stembele in Flagstaff, and it's a constant frustration that I also picked up. It seemed as if you can't buy it physically at the shops and you can't buy it online, what are people supposed to do? Linda in Boksburg, good morning. Also on the same issue.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
Right. The question is, who is open ticket? Now, if you were to go behind the scenes and try and unmask who is open ticket, you'll find a shock.
Sure.
Because it is clear to me that a company formed last year, 2024, is now getting major gigs on setting up big matches and events like this. Clearly, this smacks of a proxy company, either for politicians or football administrators.
Sure.
That is what has happened here.
Wow.
Why are these people not coming forward and explain what has happened as a company responsible for organizing or issuing tickets for the event? Why?
Yeah. Sure. Linda.
This is the big question.
Important
Who
questions.
Is open ticket.
Yeah. Important questions that you ask. Thank you for that,
Thank
Linda.
you.
Linda in Boksburg, raising important questions about, let's go beyond the actual debacle of the moment and look into who are these people that are behind these sales. Kuma in Cape Town, you want to talk to me about the Omotosho judgment?
But I want to talk about that thing. You see, I heard a lot of listeners saying they are blaming the charge and whatever, and I hear some other other listeners saying they are blaming the NPA for not investing enough. For me, I blame both, because if Omotoso was innocent, why was he running? For the judge also, she was supposed to think about that also. Why? Because if you are innocent, you can't run. What are you running at if you are innocent? So I believe that the judge also failed there together with the MPA. It's the same story. Thank you so much.
All right, Kuma, let's leave it there. Thank you for that. That's Kuma in Cape Town. I think I've made my views, known on that situation and how I view it. I don't think I need to add to that. Dalukolo in Gqeberha, good morning. You want to talk to me about Fikile Mbalula?
Thank you. Good morning, Thulasizwe. Correctly, that's what I want to raise. I think one in this matter, I think I agree with Majora. Let me put it first out. But I think the issue is clouded by the fact that generally the ANC is in a bit of a bad shape currently in society in terms of the hegemony in which it commands in society. That is one part. But if you look at the facts and what Balula says, even on the clip that you just played on the news, Balula is narrating that members of the ANC who've led the branch of the ANC literally left the ANC to go and join another party. And it's a wave now. I don't know if you've noticed, even on social media, how the Eastern Cape and KZN are beginning, when we come to this thing of MK Party, how they're beginning to be insulting one another on whether who is who. So there's a tribal element that is brewing in which people are not seeing it. But the element is that majority of Zulu-speaking people identify with the MK Party because of who the person is that they know, which is Jacob Zuma. So my point is, it's correct, it's going to happen. And if we go to local government again, the ANC might perform bad as well, because the majority of the population identify with their own rather than identifying with the principle. So I think this matter is clouded then by the performance of the ANC and how people view the ANC.
Dalukolo,
so that's my take.
Dalukolo, thank you for that. Let's leave it there. I could raise other issues such as the split in the electoral support, whether it supports the argument you were making there, Dalukolo, whether people are not preferring a style of politics, ideology, because if you look at the split, yes, the MK was the leading party in KZN, but was that accounted for by the tribal preference for that particular leader, or was the content in the MK party and what it was promising versus what the other political parties were promising? It's just a split matter for me, that you have the IFP also taking quite a significant chunk of that electoral performance, and then other political parties such as the Democratic Alliance and the ANC itself. So I wonder to what extent does it then talk to the tribalism that has been suggested this morning. But anyway, we are out of time. That's it. That's our full and final account to you this morning in lieu of your morning brief. Don't go anywhere. More quality news, current affairs and talk programming coming up here on SAFM, starting with the talking point after the news.
In our top stories, police constable's funeral underway in Bloemfontein and suspects in missing journalist case back in court. Good morning. The coffin of Constable Cebekulu Linda has arrived at the St. Rose Catholic Church in Bochabela, Bloemfontein. It has been moved from the family house where mourners and family had gathered to view the constable's body. Linda was among the 3 constables whose bodies were retrieved from the Henops River in Centurion in Pretoria a week ago. Kamogelo Siakwi has the details.
What's going to happen now is that the church is going to hold a short mass before the official program can start. Shortly after the mass, the family will then go ahead with their program, and then the official side of the program will start, where we are expecting the MEC for community safety here in the province to also give an address during the funeral.
5 people arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zotwa Mdluli will be back in the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today. They are facing charges including hijacking, kidnapping, robbery and possession of suspected stolen property. The